Hello, I'm Richard, and welcome back to my channel over and over and over again, the Positive Arsenal channel. This is now becoming a new weekly show, the Premier League weekend review. This is actually week 10 of the Premier League season. Seems strange in a way that we're only just coming into December and we've only played 10 games, and some haven't even played that many. But it's what it is this season, I guess. It's a bit of an unusual season. Before we start, if you haven't done so, please subscribe to the channel. It's going out live at the moment on Facebook, YouTube and Twitter. So wherever you're watching, please give it a like. And I say nip over to Facebook and give it a subscribe as well, because I'm very close to 200. Be nice to get there tonight if we can during the show. That would be great. Joining me again, a special guest. I say he was here last week doing the same show. It's great to have him back again. It is Paul. How you doing, mate? You all right?
Had better weeks. It's dragging on a bit, isn't it? But yeah, apart from that, mate, I'm all good. Thank you.
Good. I mean, so it's good to have you back on again. I thought it was a good show last week. I really enjoyed it. Seemed to get quite a lot of interaction as well, which was good. So you know, I don't know why we can't make it a regular thing, really, work through the season, because it's always. It's not only good to talk about Arsenal, but, you know, look at the other stuff that's going on in the Premier League as well, which we are still a part of, certainly for the time being, although how long that's going to last at the moment, we'll have to wait and see. I mean, of all the games this weekend, I guess there's only one place that we can really start, and that's, unfortunately, this one. Yeah, I mean, what a disappointing performance again from Arsenal, really, and obviously a disappointing result. I just want to give credit to Wolves first of all. I thought they played well, particularly in the circumstance of the injury to Raul Jimenez so early in that game. A terrible injury that was. Shocking, actually, when you see it, and it seems like he's recovering now from quite a serious fractured skull. So all the best to Jimenez, of course. But in terms of Arsenal, it was another abject performance, lacking ideas, lacking belief, and we're in a situation now where we're dropping further and further down the table. I know it's still quite congested, and two wins even makes a big difference to where you are in the league, but we're heading in the wrong direction completely. I mean, what were your thoughts on the game yesterday overall for us, from our point of view mainly?
Yeah, it was flat, wasn't it? I mean, we touched on it a few weeks ago, and we were looking at the Leeds, Wolves and the Spurs game as kind of the upcoming fixtures, and we were kind of relatively optimistic about picking up points. And I think I mentioned at that point it was the Wolves game that I was concerned about, purely based on the home form that we'd been showing. So I guess if I'm looking for any kind of positivity, I guess you can argue that Wolves, I mean, don't get me wrong, they played very well, and actually I think they fully deserve to win the game. They kind of only created two main chances in the first half and managed to put away both, which I guess is something we're not doing, because even when the few chances that we are creating, we're not putting them away. You've got Aubameyang, who, I mean, I've been kind of strolling through social media today, and he's getting all kinds of abuse, which is just, I just find it quite ridiculous, really. I mean, the guy's been carrying us for 2.5 years with his goals, really. And the minute he shows some kind of dip in form, he shouldn't be captain. He's not good enough. You know, we shouldn't have signed him up. But you know, it's crazy. But it was in terms of the performance, it was flat. Again, we didn't create anything. Everything was going out wide. Nothing was going through the middle. You could see. I've seen some of the graphs and stuff of kind of the average positions of players, and there was just that big gap through the middle where we just weren't creating anything. So it's yeah, another frustrating performance, and I don't think you can really compare it to the Villa game. Well, maybe you can compare it slightly more to the Villa game than you can the Leicester game, because I thought Villa were very good and fully deserved to get that win. So yeah, very flat. The only shining light for me is Gabriel at the back. For me, he's the only one really that is in any of these games is showing what we've actually got as a player. And he looks, every week he's just looking better and better and better. And that header was just ridiculous. He had 4 men around him and they were pulling him down. Phenomenal. But that's the only positive thing I can say about the game. The rest of it was flat.
I mean, I gave Gabriel my man of the match for yesterday just because he was. I didn't think that was his best game. Actually, he did score a good goal, but he was probably the best of a bad bunch from our point of view. And unfortunately, this is where we are. One of our centre backs is man of the match in a game that we lose 2-1.
At home as well.
At home, yeah, and it kind of shows pretty much where we are. You know, I mean, I say I don't want to dismiss Wolves because, as you said, they did play well and they are a good side. They're in the top 6. I think they're challenging for the top 6 this season. Actually, you know, they're going to miss Jimenez. He's going to be out for a while, I would imagine now, and they're going to miss him, and that might be crucial for their chances of maybe getting into Europe. But they played well yesterday, and I was impressed with them. But it's not good enough from Arsenal, is it? And if this was a one-off performance, you could say, yeah, okay, fair enough. This happens. You know, maybe the Leicester game at home, you could think, yeah, okay, it happens. But now it's happening on a weekly basis, isn't it? Especially at home. I don't know what it is. Is it a confidence thing, or I'm not quite sure what it is? But we're lacking, like you said yesterday. Ceballos and Xhaka were very wide, weren't they?
Yeah.
Which left a big, massive gap in the middle of the pitch, which Wolves exploited for the goal. It's the second goal in particular, and that seems to be a problem. Yes, with Thomas Partey's injured, and that's an issue because he is going to improve the midfield area. He has in the games that he's played so far, not enough games yet. So that gives me a little bit of optimism going forward. But we need a lot more than just Thomas Partey in this team, don't we? But for me, the bigger concern is not necessarily the performance yesterday or the last few performances. But what concerns me most is, you know, this is basically the same team with the addition of Gabriel, who, as we said, has been fantastic, that finished last season pretty well, really well, actually, when you look at where we'd been before Arteta came. He'd got a lot more good performances out of players like Xhaka, out of Ceballos, out of David Luiz, out of several players. You could see the improvements he'd made in individual players and individual players, and that had made us a better team as a result of that. You can see that quite clearly. But now it's like we've gone back to where we were this time last year when Emery was going, when these same players that Arteta had got more out of, now he's not getting the same out of them again. They've gone back to where they were. Now they've shown that they can do a good job for the team because they did it for 6 months at the end of last season. So it's not like they just did it in the odd game. Consistently, they were all playing well for a long time. And now they're not. The same players are not playing well. I actually believe, and I heard this actually on, I don't know if it was on a podcast earlier today or somewhere I saw it, that we finished 5th in the table under Emery with probably a weaker squad of players than we've got now. And that got me thinking that might well be true, you know, because I think now we've got a better squad of players. Yes, okay, we can't really include Thomas Partey realistically because he's not played enough games, and I think we'll see how that develops over the time. But I believe we've got a stronger squad now, and we've even got a stronger squad than we had last season in some ways. Willian come in, he's experienced, he's not playing well, but he's a good player. Gabriel, as we've said, you know, Tierney now is playing regularly, where last season he was injured for a lot of it at the beginning. And, you know, I think we've got a better team and a better squad, and yet the results and the performances are worse. I mean, why do you think that is? I know you're big. I know you don't want to get on Arteta's back, and I understand that. I don't think any of us want to get on Arteta's back. But now is the time we've got to start slowly questioning certain things that's going on, and Arteta is the man that's in charge of it all.
Oh, listen, no one's. I've said this 3 or 4 times today that no one's exempt from criticism, including Arteta. You know, I think and I know we need to be a bit more, not lenient, that's the wrong word, but we need to be a bit more patient with Arteta because he's going to make mistakes. The one thing I do question is he's clearly changed something because we seem to have diverted to a back 4 now on a more consistent basis to see how that goes. Whether or not that's changed anything, I don't know. But for the life of me, I can't see how Willian continues to start games for us. I don't see what he brings. I mean, people can say he works harder if that's the idea, if that's why he's playing, but it's just crazy. You're telling me if you're putting someone like Reece Nelson out there, we worked his socks off the other night in the Europa League to try and make an impression, which he did. I thought he was brilliant. So, I mean, questions do need to be asked. I just think all of this jumping on the Arteta out bandwagon and all of this, it's just, you can't keep doing that. You can't. I've always been proud of the fact of the way Arsenal have run things. They've given people time. Arsene Wenger had time even when it wasn't going well, and we still gave him time. And obviously there's a limit. Of course there is, but I just think he's been it's his first managerial job. He's had as many obstacles thrown at him as he could have possibly done. Global pandemic, the season was delayed last season. This season started earlier. You've got to just for me, you've just got to take all of that into account when we pass judgment on him overall. But I mean, he definitely needs to change something, because whatever it is they're working on the training pitch at the minute, it's not working. It seems to have gone from, he's come in and he said, right, we need to stop conceding so many goals. And he's managed that. He's achieved that. We don't concede half as many goals. We don't give away as many silly chances as we did before, albeit in the last few weeks we've still looked a little bit suspect at the back. But it just seems to have gone from one end of the spectrum to the other. And I guess it's just about trying to find a balance. But yeah, some of the selections I do question. A couple of the substitutions I've questioned, whether he's bringing off. I mean, when you're still 2-1 down with 10 minutes to go, and he's only just bringing on Lacazette you got, give him 20 minutes, give him 25 minutes. You're 2-1 down. You're chasing the game. Take a risk. I'd rather lose a game 3-1 and have a go and try and get yourself back in the game than just plod along and then try and hope that someone can do something within 10 minutes. Questions need to be asked. I can't put my finger on what's gone wrong. I can't. It seems to be a culmination of different things. But it's something's got to change. Whether or not that's tactics or personnel or a mixture of both. But something isn't right. I'm not sure he's lost the dressing room. I don't think that's the case. I hope that's not the case, but yeah, something's got to change, because it's not good enough at the minute.
No, it isn't. I mean, something that really stood out for me yesterday, one particular incident, and it's not just an isolated incident, unfortunately, was with Aubameyang. There was an opportunity in the first half where I think Saka put a cross in from the left, and it was coming towards where it made good movement, but he stood there and waited for it. And he didn't throw himself at the ball to try and score. And in the end, I think Conor Cody reacted and got it clear. And he just stood there waiting for it. It's like, that's not a goal scorer. A goal scorer would be killing themselves to get there and get a touch on it. Even if you're not going to get there, you throw yourself at it. You do anything. Ian Wright to do it, didn't he? And that's where the goal scorers, Harry Kane would have thrown himself at that. You know what I mean? Any good goal scorer would have done that. And Aubameyang in the past would have done that. And
I know it. Yeah, I know exactly which opportunity you're on about, and they showed the slow motion, because Conor Cody got just the slightest of touches on it, didn't it, to take it away from over. But he didn't react. He didn't look as if he was half expecting Conor Cody to miss it. He only just got something on the ball, Conor Cody. So I know exactly which opportunity he missed, and it was he didn't react at all, did he?
No, he didn't. To me, even if you think you've only got a 50-50 chance of getting to the ball, you throw yourself at it as a goal scorer, because you never know. And he had more than a 50-50 chance, because he was favourite. And literally, when the cross come in to get it, in fact, at first, I'm thinking he scored here. And then he just stood and waited. And obviously, Conor Cody reacted and got a touch, which took it away from him. But he didn't try to put himself in a position where he was going to get there. And to me, that's not Aubameyang. That's not what he does. He's a goal scorer. And that's the sort of chance in the past where he would have scored, because he would have reacted quickly. He'd have seen it coming, and he would have put himself there. He would have got himself in front of the defender and got a touch. And he's not doing that. And he's not scoring goals. And you look at that and you think, well, that's why he's not scoring goals. He's not getting a lot of chances. Let's be honest. He's not getting a lot of chances in a game. So any little chance that comes, he's got to try and make the most of. And and that's, that to me was a presentable opportunity for a proven goal scorer like that. A ball across the box like that for him, he's got to be doing something more with that, rather than just standing waiting for it to come to him. And is that a confidence thing, or is it an attitude problem? I'm not quite sure. And obviously, if he's as a captain of the team, if he's got an attitude problem in terms of he's not prepared to put himself put himself extra little bit to get a result for us, and he's the captain, then what message is that sending out to the rest of the team? And is that explaining why the performances have been so poor and so flat?
Yeah, I mean, possibly. I've never known him to have an attitude problem. I know when we signed him, I know when we signed him, people said he was a bad egg. You know, he would upset the dressing room and stuff. But actually, when he came in, I thought he did the complete opposite because of the way his personality, the way he is around the club. And I think, unfortunately for Aubameyang, it's all for me. It's a dip in form. For me, he's feeding off scraps. Who's getting frustrated throughout the game. He's not getting the ball. He's not getting chances. So I think when a chance does come along, don't get me wrong, he's reacted the wrong way about it. And he should still be trying to get these 1 or 2 chances that he is getting. But for me, it seems from the outside looking in, it looks like he's quite frustrated about the way, probably the way the team is playing, because he's not getting those opportunities like he was before. And he's probably frustrated when you're looking at someone like Mesut Ozil. He's still training with him. You know, he's still training with the first team squad, Mesut Ozil. So all of these players are going to be seeing what they're missing. And what they can't get in the game. So for me, it looks as if he's frustrated. Obviously, two in 10 games is yeah. I mean,
that's not over. That's
no, it's not
right ever for Arsenal.
Not even just for Arsenal, but for Dortmund. He's consistently scored goals throughout his whole career. And when you look at that stat there, I mean, obviously one of those was a penalty. You know, so it's.
He hasn't scored an open play since the first game of the season.
No, and with 9
games he's played in the Premier League since. It's 1 penalty in 9 games, and that's just not him. You know, it's not him. It's not been him for 10 years. You know.
No. Did you watch the training video they posted the day before the game?
Yeah,
he looked sharp there in training. He looked so. Like, how do you go from that? That is not that for me. That's not a player that lacks confidence. That's a player that's frustrated in a game. He's having to wait 30, 40 minutes to get half a chance. And then he knows he's got to wait.
No, I agree with that. But also, as well, what I noticed is the training videos that they show, and I know they edit them to look like that, but the players look like they're enjoying themselves in training, and then they're playing in a match, and they don't look like they're enjoying it at all. None of them. They're not playing with. I know we're in a bad run of form, and that has an effect. But you know, Aubameyang was the one, always smiling, always seemed to, even if game wasn't going his way, he always seemed to play with a smile on his face. That was one of the things that I really liked about him. Because that's how he was as a character, and he seems to have lost all that. And it's not just him, unfortunately. It seems to be most of them. You know, you look at Saka. You know, Saka looks like he's the freedom he played for England, and then you look at how restricted he looks playing for Arsenal. He doesn't look happy, does he? He's not able to express himself. And is that the problem? Are they being told not to express themselves too much because they've got to fit into this rigid system that Arteta wants them to play? Which, yes, I agree to a certain degree. We've become a little bit more solid without the ball, but we are still not keeping clean sheets. We are still conceding goals. And yes, you could say that's the quality of the players that we've got, probably defensively. Apart from Gabriel, the rest of them aren't really up to much, if we're honest. The goalkeeper's having a bad time at the minute as well, isn't he? Confidence-wise, I mean, that second goal yesterday, and that isn't helping. But it seems to be accumulation of things all at the same time. And this is, you know, I know he's inexperienced as a manager, and I know that it's a tough job, but this to me is where we're going to see how Arteta is, how ready he is for this type of position, because now this is where he's got to really earn his money. You know, he might well have he's done well. He did well last season. He came in at a difficult time, steadied the ship, got us to win the FA Cup, which was fantastic. But this is where he's really got to show what he's made of. And if he's able to do that and turn it around from here, then we'll have to, you know, hold our hands up to him and say brilliant, and then, you know, hopefully he can then go on and have great success. But this is a turning point for me now, because the next few weeks up till Christmas, I think, are really a big time. And if results haven't improved by Christmas, by the new year, and I don't know what might happen, because how much longer can we keep going on this downward kind of spiral that we're on? And Arteta has now got to change that, and he's got to do something to change that. And this is where he's got to really earn his money now, isn't it? This is where he's got to do his job, because when things are going well, it's easy, isn't it? Let's face it, anybody can be a manager when you're winning games. It's when you're losing and when confidence is low, when players aren't happy, that's when you earn your money. And this is where he's got to really come into his own, I think, next few weeks. And you know, I'm like you. I don't want him sacked, or I don't want him to go. I don't want anything like that to happen at this moment in time. But he's got to start showing more than what he has done in the last few weeks or last month, couple of months actually. He's got to be showing more, and he's got to be able to get a response from the players. You can't just say, well, he needs a transfer window or another transfer window, because ultimately he's going to have to work with half of these players for as long as he's at Arsenal, probably, because a lot of them are on long contract and we're not going to sell them. So he's got to be able to work with them, and you can't just say just buy players. Maybe his problem is he's come from Man City, where that's what they did. They had the best players in all positions that they could possibly get, and maybe that's what he's used to. And he's looking at some of the Arsenal players, he sees they're not as good as he's used to working with, and maybe he's finding that difficult as well. I don't know.
Yeah, possibly. I mean, I did read somewhere actually he's trying to fit a kind of a Man City philosophy with an Arsenal group of players, which was quite a I mean, it made sense maybe, when you can't necessarily play that way when you haven't got when you haven't got the quality. But for me, at the start of the season, I always said that obviously there was a fine line. I'd certainly sitting 14th come Christmas wouldn't have been in my mind, but I always had this season to give him a full season and just see how he gets on. I didn't really cast any expectations, really. Even after the FA Cup win, I still knew that was a bonus. I didn't really think that was where we were. We certainly compete better against those teams, but now we seem to have gone the other way. We can compete against those teams, but just seem to fall down with the rest of the league. And it's I'm not really casting any judgment. I'm asking questions as everybody else is. Certainly not getting on the abuse bandwagon, which seems to be gathering pace, unfortunately. But I've had enough of that negative atmosphere around the club. It's been there for so long. It kind of just felt, didn't it, the last 6 months from last season, that we just got past that. Everyone was on the same. Everyone was on the same page. Everyone could see what was trying to happen, and now it's kind of gone full circle again, hasn't it? And it's it's not a nice place to be, social media and all of that at the minute. It's frustrating to say the least.
Yeah, it is. I mean, if we lose heavy against Spurs, what is the process? Well, I think it is still too early to know what the process is, regardless of the result against Spurs. I personally believe we won't lose heavy against them. I think that's going to be a game where everyone's going to raise their game, and whether we can get a result or not, I'm not sure. Spurs are in good form. We'll come to them a little bit later on, but I don't think that this is a make or break game. I mean, yes, if we were to lose 4 or 5-0, then I think there would be serious problems on social media with Arsenal fans. But definitely, if that was the case, I'm sure it won't be, because we've not really got hammered by anybody. So I don't think that's going to happen. I think we'll compete with Spurs at the weekend, and I think we'll be in that game, and hopefully we can get a result. But we can't judge it either way. At the end of the day, Tottenham are top of the league, and it's going to be a difficult game. Whether it's a North London derby or not, and whether we're in good form or not, it's still a tough game. So we can't judge it on that. I'm more looking at what I want to start seeing, and I've been wanting to see this for the last few weeks, is just a steady improvement in performances of the team. And so far, if anything, they're almost getting worse in a way. I mean, I know we can maybe we had 10 men for a lot of that game, but it wasn't a great performance before that. And yesterday was another fairly average performance at best, and I'm finding it difficult to see a lot of where our next win's going to come from. You look at our games and you think, well, I'm looking forward to playing Burnley. That's how bad things have got, just because that might be a game that we can win. Looking at what I mean, what's coming up? We've got Southampton. They're in good form. They're playing well. That's going to be a tough game for us as well. And looking at all the teams that coming up with the games, it's like Burnley's about the only one you can look at and think, oh, we might win that one.
Yeah,
that's where it's got to at the minute, and I don't like thinking like that, but I can't see any other kind of thing at the minute. There looks to be, for me, there's only maybe 2 or 3 teams at this moment in time I could realistically be confident that we might be able to beat. And even then, I wouldn't be 100% confident. I'd be slightly more confident than in playing the other teams. You know what I mean? And that's where it is at the minute. The way where we're playing just doesn't. It's not inspiring. It's not inspiring me to think a change of fortunes round the corner. It doesn't look that way, does it? The way we're playing.
No, it doesn't. It's just that midfield. It's the midfield for me that I just can't. I don't necessarily think any one of those 3 or 4 players that have been kind of rotated in midfield are bad players individually, but collectively they don't make sense. You wouldn't put those 3 or 4 players in a midfield together. On their own individually, they can add something, but just as a midfield, it's shocking. It really is. It's just they're all either trying to do the same thing or they're not trying to do anything. You know, none of them. I mean, Ceballos. In all fairness, he's actually the one that's probably frustrated me most, because I haven't seen anything from him at the start of this season to suggest that we should be looking to sign him. I don't quite get what he is. Is he an attacking midfielder? He doesn't get many goals. He doesn't create a lot. Is he a defensive midfielder? Not for me. You know, he's one of those players that just looks good on the ball because he swivels, he turns, you know, he gets the ball a lot. So for me, I certainly wouldn't be looking to sign him. And if anything, if Guendouzi can sort his head out and bring himself back down to ground, then I'd rather have him in the squad. At least you know what you're going to get. At least you know what you're going to get with him. But Xhaka, I think, is a very good player in a unique midfield. You have to have the right players around him. But at the moment, he hasn't got that, which is, I mean, he gets his own criticism anyway. But just that midfield for me is just all wrong. I can't see.
I agree. It looks that way, but yet towards the end of last season, Ceballos and Xhaka actually, as our midfield, which it was for the end of last season, the FA Cup final and all that kind of stuff, semi-final, they look good together and it worked. And suddenly now they look as though they've never ever played together in their life. They look complete strangers. They're just not. And is that to do with a system that they're now being asked to play a slightly different role to maybe what they were? Does Arteta not need to maybe go back to what we were doing well at the end of last season that won us those big games? And does he need to go back to that? I mean, we won away at Wolves last season, didn't we? Towards the end of last season, really good away. I know it was away from home and it's slightly different. And it was a good away performance. We just maybe need to go back to basics and just go back to what we were doing well, rather than trying different systems and trying different things that clearly either the players aren't good enough to make it work, which seems to be the case, or it's just not the right system to be playing. One thing or another, I'm not quite sure. So maybe just go back to what we were doing before. If we have to play Ceballos and Xhaka because they're the only 2 available players that are fit, which was the case pretty much this week, play them in a system that worked before. You know, we had 3 at the back when they were playing before, so there's a little bit more stability in the team. Maybe that's what they needed because they played better then. So why aren't we going back to that? I know he wants to evolve the system and stuff like that, but we have to look at what players are available, who we've got, what their strengths and weaknesses are, and try to cover up their weaknesses as much as we can and get the best out of them. And that's what he did last season really well, didn't he? For 15 games last season, he did that really well. And this season, it's the complete opposite. All their weaknesses are exposed every single week, and their strengths are just not being utilised. Anybody in that team,
no,
apart from Gabriel, and I don't necessarily think his strengths are being utilised. He's just a decent defender who's defending and doing his job. You know, and that's it, really. I mean, I agree with Andy that, you know, Tierney is showing. So I wouldn't say necessarily the only one. I think others maybe. I say Gabriel. I think he's showing some good attitude. And 1 or 2 others, but there's not really that many, is there? Walcott to score the winner for Southampton. I wouldn't be surprised actually. No. Or Danny Ings, he tends to score against us, doesn't he? So it'll probably be him if he's fit by then. And Michael's a Man City fan. Agent Arteta's doing a great job. It's a mentality in the Arsenal team that doesn't seem right. It is a mentality thing, but that mentality was a lot stronger at the end of last season. It's basically the same players. I don't understand why suddenly their mentality's gone. I'm not quite sure why. That is a mentality issue, I agree, but I'm not quite sure why that would have changed when, you know, it's basically the same players, isn't it? Plus 1 or 2 better players have come in, such as Gabriel, as we said, Thomas Partey, who hasn't really played much yet, and Willian, who I know he's not played very well, but he's an experienced player, isn't he? And he's at the time we signed him, look, that's a positive addition to the squad, you know. And I don't know, it's just not happening for Arsenal at the minute, and it is frustrating and it needs to change. And let's hope that Sunday is the game to change, isn't it? Sunday's a game where it could be a season-changing performance and a season-changing result. If we can get a decent result there, we haven't got a very good record away at Tottenham for a long time. So if we can get a result there, then that might lift the confidence and give everyone a lift. But there's a few things yesterday that shocked me. Was one, why wasn't Balogun on the bench when he came on in the week squad? Stick him on the bench at least. You know, and little decisions like that with some of the players, like you said, why is Willian continually getting picked when he's not producing. Nelson came on yesterday, and I thought played quite well actually when he came on.
He looked sharp again. Yeah, he looked sharp.
He looked lively. He looked like he wanted to have a go at people, run past people, get crosses in. He looked lively. Why isn't he getting more of a chance at the moment? I wouldn't say necessarily you're gonna be a successful team with Reiss Nelson in the side necessarily and Willock, but you've got to give these players opportunities when the other people aren't playing well. That's what it's about, isn't it? You've got to manage the squad better. We flew back from Norway late because we had to stay an extra night. And whether that's had an effect, but every single time we've played in the Europa League this season, at the weekend we've been dreadful. Every single time. And it is Arteta finding that shuffling difficult because he's playing quite a strong team every week in the Europa League, isn't he? And he's playing a few youngsters as well, but he's still playing a strong team. He's taking a strong squad over there. So they're still travelling, they're still training, they're still preparing to play. Is that what he's doing wrong? Because in the past, in the Europa League, even in the Champions League group stage, quite often we'd play almost a second string team. And then the players that were playing in the Premier League hadn't played in midweek. So they were fresh, and maybe that made a difference. And maybe he's trying to keep a strong team in every competition because he wants to do as well as he can, and maybe we're just not good enough to do that. I don't know. Yeah,
but that was my point. When I put that comment on your show the other night about Tierney, he played 3 games for Scotland in 9 days, 90 minutes each game, from a player that was still coming back from injury at the start of the season anyway. He's come back, and he brought him on against a team where we were leading comfortably. He didn't need to bring him on, even if it was just for 10 minutes. He didn't even need to travel. You could have just left him at home. You've got other players that you can play there. So that for me is a possible reason. He is taking a very strong squad against a group that I can understand it if we had a tough group. But that group, we should be walking that regardless of what players you put out. You could put you could put the under-23s out and they give a good account of themselves against some of those teams that we've got in the group stage. So maybe that's the reason. Maybe he just needs to prioritize something, maybe. Which I guess, really our most realistic option of getting in the Champions League is the Europa League. But I don't know. I just want to see a few more characters. You want to see characters that when things aren't going well, they don't hide. And that's what Tierney does. That's when you look at people like Tierney, when people say he shows passion, it is passion, but he doesn't hide. Even when things are going badly, he'll put himself out there and try and make things right. And I guess that's maybe that's what's happening with Oba. Maybe he just hasn't got that in his locker. Maybe he wants to shy away and hide a bit. Maybe I don't know. But it's you just want to see a few more of those characters, didn't you?
Yeah, exactly. Michael says, we think let teams bully us at times, physical teams with pace are exploiting our fragility. But and that's been the case for a long time with Arsenal. I actually thought this season with the team that we had, that wouldn't happen as much because I think we've got a few more physical players. I know Thomas Partey, again, we come back to, hasn't played much, but he's not going to get bullied in midfield, is he? Yeah. Gabriel's not getting bullied at the back, is he? Tierney doesn't get bullied. I know he had troubles with Traore yesterday, but then Traore can cause problems to anybody on his day because he's a really, really good player. And Tierney did well against him in some parts of that game, and other parts of the game, Traore got the better of him and set up the first goal and whatever as well. So, but I think we have got a little bit more physicality about us now with some of the players in the team, but the mentality maybe isn't still quite strong enough. And when we do play these teams, we are getting beaten more often than not, aren't we? Still, and probably more so now actually than before. I say Wolves hadn't won at Arsenal since 1979. Leicester hadn't won at Arsenal since 1974 or something. They're turning up and winning. Aston Villa don't often win away at Arsenal, and it just seems like anybody can come to Arsenal now. No one's scared. No one's worried about playing us. They just feel as though they can get a result. Wolves weren't scared yesterday. They just turned up. They thought they could win, and they did, even despite losing their top scorer after 5 minutes to injury. So and that kind of sums up, unfortunately, where we are at the minute. If we move on now to look at some of the other games, obviously there was quite a lot of good games at the weekend. Actually, some important games. The game that I actually one of the games I enjoyed quite a lot actually was this one. A team that we mentioned actually last week that we were praising last week. They performed well again actually. If Brighton could score goals, they would be in the top 5 or 6 the way they're playing. They're playing great football. I actually love watching Brighton play, and they were unlucky not to win this game actually against Liverpool. They missed a penalty. I know Liverpool had a couple of goals disallowed, which I know Klopp wasn't very happy about, was he? And some of the decisions and the penalty at the end and stuff. But Brighton deserved the result in this game anyway, I thought. Did you watch much of that?
I saw most of it actually, the Brighton game. Yeah, same as you. Very, very impressed. I thought they played really well. Definitely deserved something from the game. I think Liverpool looked a bit lackluster, didn't they? But I don't know whether that was because Brighton were pressing quite well. They put Liverpool under quite a lot of pressure throughout the game in spells. Maybe not necessarily all the way through the game, but yeah, I thought Brighton were brilliant and fully deserved something from the game. A couple of funny decisions, weren't there, in that one? But
yeah, they were.
But
I didn't think that penalty at the end was soft, wasn't it? That Brighton got. I thought they deserved it, but it was a soft penalty, wasn't it?
It was soft, yeah.
Definitely a penalty, that one. I mean, the first one I thought was that they missed, and then they got that one. I mean, it was a shame because Mopé's obviously had a bit of an issue with us in the past. So I suppose it was funny that he missed. Although I suppose if Brighton had won that game, it would have been quite interesting. But Graham Potter, I think, is an up and coming manager. Actually, he's a young manager, inexperienced really at the top level. Yeah. And he's come into the Premier League, and he's at a small club. They haven't got a lot of budget, but what a great job he's doing there. And I know that they should be higher in the league actually for how they've been playing. And I've been really, really impressed with watching them this season. I think they're playing great football, and they're suddenly now starting to get some better results as well. They won last week. They've got a draw this week against Liverpool, which is a great result. And I think now they could start to really move up that table a bit and get away from the relegation zone, which they don't deserve to be in. I mean, I agree. Liverpool, for some reason, I know Klopp was moaning about the kickoff time, 12:30 and this, that, and the other. They played on Wednesday. I mean, and they were at home. So I can't understand what his issue is. We travelled to Norway on Thursday and we played Sunday night, but we were away and we had to stay an extra night. They played at home on Wednesday and then they're playing Saturday lunchtime. Yeah. You know what I mean? I don't really see that's a big issue. It's not ideal, but it's not a big, massive problem, is it?
No, it's not. I mean, did you see his interview just after the game?
Yeah.
I mean, that was not a man that's comfortable at the minute, is he? He's not happy. It seems like it's a bigger argument maybe outside that game specifically, but yeah, he looked like he'd lost it a bit, didn't he? But Brighton. I fully agree with Graham Potter. I think he's done a brilliant job at Brighton. A fella that I work with actually is a season ticket holder, or would be a season ticket holder down at Brighton. Goes down. He's got no bad words to say against him and the way the team are playing. And when you're getting bad decisions like they've had a few of them this season already, I think if you stick to what you're doing, that you'll turn a corner, won't you? And some of those will start going for you, which I think is kind of what happened on Saturday. So yeah, brilliant. I was pleased for that. And plus, it makes everything else a bit interesting. With Liverpool dropping points, so you don't want to run it away with it. So
they've not run away from the first game actually, Liverpool. So they're struggling a little bit in their away games. They're still obviously winning at home, which they tend to do anyway. But it's certainly, they're not going to run away with the league. I still think they'll probably win it, but they're certainly not going to run away with it like they did last year. You can see that already. Teams now have maybe figured them out a little bit. They've got a lot of injuries as well. Let's not forget as well, haven't they? Key injuries, and I think maybe when everybody's fit, they will probably start winning games a little bit more easier. But at the moment, everybody seems to be taking points off everyone. And, like you said, it makes it more of an exciting season. Liverpool had won their last 5 or 6 games and were 10 points clear. It makes it become a little bit pointless. But having said that, when we look at the next game, it might not be a bad thing if they were 10 points clear, because whoever won this game was going to go top of the league. And that's not very good, is it? I mean, I think all this puts our problems into more perspective when Chelsea and Tottenham are actually doing quite well at the moment. Even those two would have gone top if they had won. As it turned out, they cancelled each other out to a certain degree, I thought, in this game. And probably a draw was the right result overall. But Tottenham have played well. And I watched this game, and what struck me about it was, even though it wasn't a great game, both of them two teams are miles ahead of us, of us. In the way that they're playing with the players that they've got, just everything. And, these are the two of the clubs, obviously, that we probably want to be as close to as possible, or we used to be ahead of them both. And now Chelsea have pulled away from us anyway the last few years in terms of Leagues One and whatever, and even Spurs now. I mean, I wasn't expecting this from them this season, but they actually look a complete side, don't they? Yeah. Which is a bit worrying.
Yeah, it's a weird one because I actually I wasn't overly convinced by Lampard, I must admit, and kind of I think I said at the start of the season that I think come Christmas, I thought that they certainly weren't going to be in the position they were, and we all know what the mentality is like at Chelsea. If you're not cutting it, then you're out. It doesn't matter who you are. But and from a Tottenham perspective, it's what Mourinho does best, isn't it? He gets results in places where not everybody gets a result, and that's what gives you that consistency throughout a league season, is being able to go to Chelsea and pick up a point. He's probably not gone there and thought, I want to win it. Let's not lose it. That's what he's probably said to the team. And actually, I kind of felt that that's probably what Lampard said as well. Let's just go out there and just try and just get something from the game. If we get a point, we move on. It's a good result for both teams, and they both move on. So it's frustrating to watch that, actually, for both of them. But I mean, Chelsea, we touched on it last week. They're not going to struggle for goals, the amount of players they've got up front. And it doesn't look like Tottenham are going to struggle much for goals as well. It looks like Kane and Son are banging form. It looks like they've got that in Ndombele. He's turned up now. He's starting to play, and he looks a decent player in midfield. So it's worrying, isn't it, to say the least?
Yeah, and I say it maybe makes our kind of struggles look even worse when you look at those our two biggest rivals realistically in the Premier League, and they're both doing so well and look as though they've both almost the complete team. And you know, that's almost where I maybe wasn't expecting us to be quite up that level quite yet, but I was expecting us to be moving in that direction this season after the way we finished last season. And I would have expected us to have been looking at that and thinking, we're not far off that. That's where I wanted us to be. And looking at that game on Saturday, or no, Sunday, wasn't it? You looked at it and you thought, we're nowhere near either of them two teams. That was even before we'd played on Sunday. Just the way that they were playing, the way they set up, the way that the intensity that they played with, the quality that they had, both of them had in the final third as well. I know it ended up 0-0, which might seem strange, but you could just see the quality that was there. But good defending from both teams as well. It was almost, that either of those two, if we played it like either of those two teams, we'd be happy, wouldn't we? More than happy. And that's all we want to see, really, a little bit more of moving in that sort of direction. At the moment, we're miles away from it. That actually depressed me watching that game, thinking about how far away, we know we're behind Liverpool, we know we're realistically behind Man City, and that's fair enough. But to be so far behind Chelsea and Tottenham is quite a concern. When you think 2 seasons ago, when we were, it was us three going for the last 2 places in the top 4, 1 point between us. And now look how much they've progressed. Yes, Chelsea have spent a lot of money. Tottenham have sort of brought a few players in, but they haven't really spent a lot, have they? They've got a new manager and stuff like that. But just how far ahead of us they are, in how quickly that's happened as well. Or is it just that we've just dropped backwards? I don't know. I can't quite decide. It's probably a bit of both, isn't it? They've progressed the time that we've gone backwards, I guess, and that's why the gap's opened up to what it is.
I didn't. I must admit, that was kind of the one thing that I had in my head at the start of the season was let's be in and around them two. That was the two. I like it, like you said. We're years behind Liverpool and City. But we're miles behind them. We're not going to catch them anytime soon. So for me, it was let's be in and around Chelsea and Tottenham. And I didn't expect them to be playing so well so quickly. I mean, Chelsea have made quite a few signings, which generally, more often than not, tends to upset a team, and it takes a little bit longer to kind of find a rhythm and gel a bit. But they seem to have done that pretty quickly. And I think Mourinho has just brought that stability, isn't he? I mean, whether it's a long-term stability, we all know what Mourinho's like in terms of longevity at any club, but it's he definitely seems to have brought a stability to that club. And I hate to admit it, but I mean, Harry Kane at the moment is just, I mean, what's he got? Was it 9 assists or something stupid already this season?
13 goals.
Yeah. You'd argue that it's been the best start to a season for him that he's had. And I mean, we all know how many goals he scores against us. So I must admit, I'm not looking forward to the weekend. I must admit, but it's it's frustrating to see, because I actually thought that we could have and should have been in and around those teams, Tottenham and Spurs. I certainly didn't see us dropping off so dramatically. I mean, if we'd have won the other night, we'd have been sixth, 3 points off Chelsea in third. So when you put it like that, it's kind of, you think, well, you are in and amongst those teams, and that's with a couple of bad results at home. But the performances don't justify that. We don't deserve to be. We don't deserve to be sixth with 3 points behind third place at all. But that was the reality of that result. If we'd have won that game, we could have been right back up there. And it just it changes things, doesn't it? Sitting in sixth as opposed to 14th. So yeah, I don't know. I'm not looking forward to the weekend at all, I must admit. Might have to find a reason to go out.
But I mean, it's almost a complete turnaround, because there would have been loads of times when Tottenham played us when we were top of the league, we were playing well, and then Tottenham were maybe struggling in the mid part of the table or below. This happened for years and years, didn't it? When we were the invincible team before that, and now suddenly roles have been reversed a little bit, and now we're having to suffer that same thing. I know it's only like once, and they've had to suffer it a load of times, so it's not quite the same, but you can almost get a little feeling of how it must have felt for them all them times when they had to play us top of the league. But having said that, if we can knock them off the top, at least that's going to be something that we can take from what's been quite a poor sort of series of results. And if that happens, then at least we can be happy about that, maybe for a little while. They used to be previously, if they beat us, it was a big result for them, wasn't it? And I don't want us to get like that, because we're bigger than that. At this moment in time, you have to look at the little things and try to get some positives from somewhere. And at this moment in time, knocking Tottenham off the top of the league would actually feel probably a lot more exciting than it should, realistically. But because of where we've been at the moment, I think if you have to work hard to get the players up for that game at the weekend, given the run of results that we've had, just given the fact it's a North London derby, where we're in the league, the way we're playing, if Arteta's got to work hard to get those players up for that game, then that is concerning. Those players should be bang up for that, and I mean, that's the only way that really they're going to be able to turn around the season. If we can do something there, I mean, it could be a massive turning point. But like you said, if we go there and get thumped, which I don't think we will, because like you said, we haven't been thumped, and we haven't looked like being thumped at all this season. Even against City away and Liverpool away, we didn't look like getting thumped. So they seem to be the games that we're doing all right in, is the big games away from home. We've competed in. So if we can do that again, then hopefully we can nick something. But it's not going to be an enjoyable 90 minutes, is it? Probably not. Well, that'll be enjoyable at the end. I'll enjoy it at the end if we've got a result, I guess. But
yeah, absolutely.
I never enjoy North London derbies while they're happening anyway.
I hate them. I hate them.
And you can't. It's only afterwards, when obviously if you've got a good result, you're happy and you can enjoy it and you can look back and enjoy it. But at the time, I don't think I've ever enjoyed an Arsenal Spurs game in my life ever.
No,
at the time it's happened. Just because it's just too stressful, it's too tense, and there's too much at stake, really, isn't there? You can't even contemplate defeat, and especially at the moment, even more so on this game, particularly with them top of the league. Them beating us to increase their lead at the top would just be the worst North London derby ever I can remember, because I don't think we've ever been in this situation before. I don't think we've ever played them when they've been top of the league, not in my lifetime. I can't ever remember it.
No.
So luckily it's still quite early in the season and plenty of time for them to do a Spurs, but let's hope they start on Sunday.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
There's another team actually that seem to be playing a lot better away from home than at home, which maybe is what we are doing slightly. Our away record's a lot better than our home record, and so is this team. This was a strange game, wasn't it? Because Southampton are another team I've been really impressed with, I've got to be honest. And they started this game like they've been playing for the last few weeks really, really well. But for some reason, Manchester United away from home are a completely different team. They're very good on the counter attack, and once they got their tails up, and obviously they got Cavani as well, who came on and got the goals. I mean, we were linked with him so many times, and if we'd bought him in the summer, everyone would have said, "Oh, he's past it. He's over the hill. He can't. He's not going to be able to do a job." And he's coming from Man U, and he's a sort of player that you can bring off the bench, and he can get you goals. And that's what he did. And I mean, as much as it pains me to say it again, I was impressed with Man United in the second half of that game, because they got absolutely battered in the first half. They could have been 3 or 4-0 down, and then to come back like that and win that game, it's just like, and I look at stuff like I'm thinking, why can't we do that? Why haven't we got that much fight and passion about us? I mean, I know Hussein mentioned it before about passion. He's actually said that he thinks Tottenham are going to beat us 3-1. So, but he might well be right. But yeah. It's going to be a tasty game. Hopefully the ref will let it flow. Yeah, it will be a tasty game, but let's hope that it's VAR doesn't ruin it, really, because it's too important a game. But yeah, I mean, I say Man United, I've been impressed with them away from home, actually. I think they've been behind in every away game in the Premier League and come back to win, and they've done it again. It's just incredible, really, when you look at it.
They're a really funny side, aren't they, Man United? Because sometimes I watch them and it looks like they put 11 players out there that never even met each other, let alone play football together. They look completely. They just look all over the place, don't they? Whereas, I mean, I didn't watch the full game. I saw bits of it because I had it on in the background. But it was, I was more shocked about how Southampton let that slip, because, like you say, it wasn't as if they didn't deserve to be 2-0 up, and it wasn't as if Southampton haven't been playing well, because they have. They have been playing well. They've been getting decent results. So the fact that they've kind of let that slip was more frustrating than the fact that United have kind of taken advantage of that. But it's a funny one. I don't particularly rate Bruno Fernandes, but when you look at his numbers, I mean, what he's brought to that side is ridiculous. I know people will say about his penalties and stuff like that, and that's fine. But I mean, you look at his stats are superb, aren't they? He gets assists more often than not. He's involved in anything good that they do. I mean, I don't know what are they in front of us now. 5 points, 6 points ahead of us now.
No, I don't think
is it not? Oh, maybe 3, is it? Because we lost and they won. I think we were level. Strange team.
They've won one game at home, which was last week, and they've won all 4 of their away games. Which is just, and I think maybe the atmosphere at the minute with no fans in the grounds and stuff probably does play a part, because there's a lot of away wins, a lot more away wins now than there used to be. But they've got the best away record in the league. Liverpool can't win away, Man United can't win at home, and if they combine the two together, then they'd be running away with the title, wouldn't they? So it's a strange thing, because Man United don't strike me as being a particularly good team. I just think maybe playing away from home on a counter attack seems to suit them. But I agree, Southampton threw this game away more than anything. I think 2-0 up. They were cruising at that point, and as soon as Man United scored, I kind of felt that Man United were going to get something out of the game, just because the momentum completely turned, didn't it, on that first goal? Like you said, Bruno Fernandes scored. He had 2 assists as well, and his numbers are amazing. The impact that he's had in a short time has been incredible, really. And he has got a lot of penalties. Oh, he's off penalty duty now, isn't he? Because of he's missed a couple, I think. But anyway, I mean, an amazing result for Man U. But I mean, Southampton are a good side, actually, and I know this wasn't a great result for them, but what the turnaround that they've had as well over the last year or so, and they got a bit of momentum going, and they've took it into this season, and they're doing really well, aren't they? And they're another team that. There's so many teams in the Premier League. I look every week and I think, I wish we played football like that. Brighton, Southampton, even the way Man United play away from home, the attacking threat that they've got, the goals that they score away, and it's like it almost makes me jealous every week watching these other teams, because we used to play good football, and that's what makes it maybe harder. And then you look at all these teams. I mean, Southampton to me are playing some great stuff, really good football, and they look a really good team. And yet, have they got better players than us? I don't think they have.
No,
they've got some good players. Ward Prowse is having a good season. I like him. He's good at free kicks from set pieces, isn't he? And he's a good all-round midfielder, I think. And you know, they've got obviously Danny Ings. He's not been fit at the minute, but he's a goal scorer. But they've just got a solid team, haven't they? They're solid in all. They haven't got outstanding players necessarily. They've just got a good, solid team all the way through, haven't they? And they just work well together. So same with Brighton, I think it's similar. Brighton don't have outstanding individual players really. They've just got a good team that works. And unfortunately, we've got better individual players probably, but we don't seem to make it work together. And that's you know, that's maybe where that's where we're falling down a little bit. Russ is in the house. Hello, Russ. How you doing? Good to see you. Well, hear from you. So another team that has been a bit hit and miss this season, but people went a bit over the top about this result, I thought. I mean, Man City must be paying Burnley off because 4 seasons in a row now they've beaten 5-0.
5-0, haven't they? Yeah,
that's just ridiculous. I mean, why do Burnley bother even playing that game? They might as well stay at home and just concede the 3 points and take a 3-0 defeat and not turn up, because every single year they go there, they just collapse and they just don't even put up a fight. And it's the same every single season. And it's, I mean, people saying, "Oh, Man City are back." Well, no, Man City aren't back. They played the worst, or the best team for them to play, the worst team in the league probably at the moment. And they had that the new goalkeeper in, who had a bit of a nightmare, didn't he? To be fair.
Yeah.
I felt a bit sorry.
He was lucky with the one he needed in the goal, wasn't he? He was lucky with that one to get away with that. But yeah. I mean, don't get me wrong. I thought City played quite well, and they scored a couple of really nice goals. I thought Mahrez looked sharp. He looked like he was maybe back to some kind of form. But yeah, I think the result in itself is I think people are getting a bit carried away with that. They've got to do that now. 3, 4, 5, 6 games in a row, start blowing away teams before they start making me believe that they're back to anything like they were kind of 18 months ago, you know. So they played well, but Brighton, like you say, Burnley were just they just gave up, didn't they? I don't even know why they bothered turning up, but shocking.
I did feel a bit sorry for the goalkeeper, because if you're making your debut as a young goalkeeper, one of the last places you'd want to make your debut is at Man City away, especially playing for Burnley. You always lose by a lot of goals there. And I did feel a bit sorry for him, and he did have an absolute nightmare, didn't he? But, you know, he's a sort of goalkeeper that no doubt when we play Burnley in a few weeks' time, he'll play, and he'll have an absolute stormer, save everything. And that's just to be the way it'll go. We never seem to get a goalie like that against us, do we? He just throws things in his own net.
No.
But yeah, it's just weird that 4 seasons in a row that game's finished 5-0.
Crazy, isn't it?
I don't know if that's ever happened before. 4 results in a row, the same result, 4 seasons in a row against the same team. Unusual that.
No.
I mean, we funny enough, if our game with Wolves had finished 1-1, that'd have been the 4th time in a row that was won. Or it wouldn't have been 4 seasons in a row, because obviously Wolves weren't in the Premier League for a few years in between. But that would have been 4 times in a row there. But I mean, 5-0, 4 years in a row is just. He's just incredible. And obviously Mahrez got his first hat-trick for them as well, didn't he? Which he's been, obviously he's a good player for them, isn't he? He's another player that we were kind of maybe talking about signing a few years back, and never quite happened, did it? And, you know. Do
you know what? That's what I thought Pepe was. When we signed Pepe, I thought that's what we'd got. A player like Mahrez. And I mean, technically, he is quite similar the way they play. They've got that ability. They cut inside. Everything goes in the top left, top right hand corner. You know, everything. That's kind of, you can see a lot of similarities between them. But yeah, I thought when we got Pepe, I thought that was kind of that kind of player that we were going to get. But it's not quite happened just yet, is it? But no, I thought he was brilliant. And actually, I was quite annoyed because I took him out of my dream team. So that was lesson learned there. But never mind.
Well, yeah, that's usually I'll take out against for a hat-trick. But I've tried to avoid Man City players this season because, like I say, they've not been scoring many goals, have they? It's only obviously this is the first game they've really clicked. But I say it is against a team they generally beat easily anyway, so I'm not reading too much into that. But that could be the thing that kickstarts their season, because sometimes it takes one result, doesn't it? One performance, and you can push on. And maybe that's what they needed. Maybe they needed to play Burnley. You know, we've got them soon, so maybe we need to play them as well. But we only usually beat them 2-1, or 1-0. You know, I'm not sure it's going to necessarily help us particularly, but yeah, I mean, you know, maybe it's the start of a run for Man City. They're going to have to start a run if they're going to claw their way back into the title race. But they're not that far off realistically. They've got a game in hand, and they're only probably 3 or 4 points off, the top 4. So I think that, if they can get a run, they're going to be up there again, aren't they? And if we're honest, I suppose over 38 games, it is probably going to be Liverpool, Man City, first and second, isn't it? I think if even despite the improvements that certain other teams have made that we don't want to acknowledge, but they have, I still think that it's probably going to be those 2 first and second, isn't it? And I think the rest are just chasing the other 2 top 4 places maybe, but we'll see what happens. It's still early days.
I can't at this point in time. I can't see that top 4 consisting of anyone other than those 4 teams: Liverpool, City, Chelsea, and Tottenham. I can't see anyone else at the moment.
No, at the moment I agree. It's looking that way. Yeah, it is looking that way. But you never know.
No, you never know.
There's not a lot of points, is it? Like you said, if we'd beaten Wolves, we could have been in the top 6 and really close.
Yeah.
And we've pretty much had a terrible season. So, anything's possible. If anybody can get anyone in the mid part of the table can get on a run of 3 or 4 wins, you can pull that together, you're going to be right up there. I mean, Man United are a team that could do that. They did it last year. They had a good run, didn't they, to got themselves in the top 4. And we could potentially do that if we can get it sorted out quickly before the gap starts getting too much. At the moment, it's still within reach, isn't it? Like you said, 2 or 3 things, and we can be back in touch again. But it is looking like that top 4 is pretty much done and dusted in a way, isn't it? And it's going to be difficult for anyone else to get in there, just on the quality of the way that they're playing, the quality of the players in those 4 teams. Really, unfortunately, I think we need to accept that we're maybe fighting over the scraps at this moment in time. And if we're even going to be as good to fight for the scraps, even, you just never know. Another team that has impressed me in recent weeks, particularly against us last week, actually. I mean, that's a good win for Leeds, isn't it, away from home against Everton, who I know Everton have not been in great form recently since their good start, but, they had a lot of shots in that game. They absolutely fired shots in from everywhere, Leeds, and, they were unlucky not to score against us a few times last week, hitting the bar and whatever. So they're looking a good side, Leeds, actually. They're good to watch. Another team that's good to watch. Another team that I look at and think, why can't we play football like that? But, it's what it is. But, I mean, credit to them. Absolutely brilliant performance from Leeds, I thought.
Yeah, I thought they were superb. And like you say, I know Everton haven't had the best run of results, but they still, when you look at the bigger picture, they've had a decent start to the season. And to be fair, even it's never an easy place to go, Goodison Park. I know, obviously, you got the thing with no fans and stuff, but it's never the easiest stadium to play in. So it's a great result. And like you say, they play football. But what I quite like about them is they seem very adaptable, don't they? They can adapt to different games, different situations. They can play in different ways. They're not one-dimensional at all, are they? They can certainly switch it up during games, and fully deserved to get the result. It was a good win for them. And they're ninth? I think they're about ninth, aren't they now?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. After losing 2 games 4-1, they've now kept 2 clean sheets in a row since that young lad's come back into midfield. Had a good game against us, didn't he? So, I mean, they're a good side. I mean, Everton are a bit hit and miss, unfortunately, at the moment, aren't they? They had a great start. Looked as though they could challenge for the top 4 this season, actually, but they've gone off the boil a bit. They're struggling to score goals. I know it's the first, Calvert-Lewin didn't score this week. I know he's been scoring a few, but apart from him now, the last few weeks, it's only really him that's scoring for them, isn't it? They've lost all the attacking threat that they had maybe earlier in the season, and it's a shame for Everton, because I think that they're quite a good side to watch generally, but they're just on a bit of a point. That was a good game, actually. I thought what I saw of that game was a good game. Two sides that were looking to attack and score goals, and I know it only finished 1-0, but it could easily have been 4-3 or 3-2 or something like that. Game, actually, there was a couple of good saves from Pickford as well. Actually, I know he gets a lot of criticism, but he actually played all right for a change. He did. And it was a good goal to win it as well, wasn't it? A shot from the edge of the box that went in the bottom corner, a really good goal as well. So, Russ there saying, do you think the Kroenkes will panic and get rid of Arteta? No, I don't think they will.
I think they've adjusted the whole structure to fit Arteta in. From what I can see, they've made so many changes to kind of fit him in and give him the kind of freedom that he kind of wants to work in. So I'll be very surprised. It would take something. No is the answer to that. I don't think so.
No, not at this moment in time. I mean, if things don't improve over the next 6, 7, 10 games, then maybe it might be different. But at the moment, they're definitely not going to panic now. I mean, we only sacked Emery a year ago, and all the issues that's happened, as you said before, in this last year with the lockdown and the break for the football being off and the short pre-season, everything else that's gone on, I think it is too early to panic yet. But having said, as I say, 3 or 4 more poor results, poor performances, and who knows? I mean, football's like that, isn't it? I mean, the thing that struck me yesterday in Arteta's press conference was, and I said it in my video as well earlier today, he looks as though he's almost resigned to the fact that he's going to get sacked. And he almost looked as though he'd given up the fight, as though, well, I'm going to get sacked. So at some point.
But you know what, for me?
I don't know. I don't like that.
Do the Cronkies care enough to even sack him? You've got to want a club to do well to make that decision. And I think the only reason they did it with Arteta was just purely that I think the fan base forced their arm, whether or not, because the fan base went toxic again, didn't it, against him? And it was they didn't really have any choice other than to do that. But for me, I don't get the impression that the Cronkies care enough about the club to really be that bothered about whether they do or not. I don't know. It just if they cared enough about the club, then they'd be doing more to bring us up the other way, wouldn't you? So I don't know. I don't think they'll be making any change anytime soon. Like you say, if we're still in the same position come January, then maybe you need to ask different questions. But it's I don't think they're going to make any rash decisions just yet.
I just feel a little bit that not having any fans in the stadium, right, as means that if you notice that the number of managers been sacked so far compared to normally, there's normally 1 or 2 already gone by this point in the season, and there hasn't been this season. I do feel as though there isn't the same pressure on the owners of clubs to sack managers because the fans aren't in the ground booing or making their feelings known as they may have been in previous seasons. And I don't know whether that's making a difference. I think it's the same probably with us. We've just lost 3 home games in a row. If there'd been crowds in them 3 home games, there would have been a toxic atmosphere in there yesterday when we lost that game in the manner that we did. And sometimes it's that pressure from the crowd that actually forces the owners sometimes to get rid of a manager maybe a little bit earlier than they may ordinarily have done. So I do feel though Arteta's got a little bit more time anyway. I think all managers have this season because no fans. But having said that, they're going to start bringing fans back in. Now, we're the first club on Thursday in the Europa League, 2,000 fans in, which to me is a complete waste of time. But I guess they've got to start somewhere. And I suppose it's where they're starting. I mean, just quickly then, while we're talking about it, what are your kind of thoughts on that then, getting 2,000 fans in under the restrictions that they're proposing it's going to be? I mean, to me, I wouldn't want to be part of that. I wouldn't want to go in no circumstance. I'd rather wait until we can enjoy it properly.
Yeah, no, I agree, and I was actually listening to Crouchy the other day, and what he was saying with I think it was Joe Cole. I can't remember which game it was they were commentating on, but they were saying surely if you're going to start to allow fans back in, surely to make it fair, it should just be a percentage of your stadium capacity. So whatever that percentage is, even if it's 5% of your stadium capacity. So if you've got a 50,000 seater stadium, then it's 5%. You do it that way. That way, it makes it fair. I mean, I just can't even picture in my head what 2,000 fans is going to look like in a 60,000 seater stadium. It's going to look ridiculous.
I don't think it'd be too bad if all the 2,000 could bunch together and be together, and you get a bit of that. But they're going to be spaced out over everywhere, over 2/3 of the stadium. It's just ridiculous. I think it's utterly ridiculous. The club have now got to pay staff to man the whole thing and organise it all. People on the turnstiles and people inside selling drinks and all this kind of stuff, right? Stewards and safety people and everything else to allow such a small number of people in with all the restrictions that involves. So you can't sit anywhere near anybody else. You can't shout and scream. You can't sing. You can't do anything. It's almost like, what is the point? What are they trying to achieve by that? Either you find a way to allow fans in enough numbers to make it worth being there and to make it work, the club paying all the staff that they need, or just don't bother until you can get to that point. If we can only get, I mean, and like you said as well, there's, if you're in a tier 3 part of the country, you can't have any fans. If you're in a tier 2, you can have 2,000. It's just like they've got to make it. It's because that's unfair anyway. You know,
of course it is. Yeah, it's
unfair. On, you know, we can have fans in our ground, and say Manchester United can't have fans in their ground. That's not fair. And you can't. I know it's only Europa League game for now. I don't think the Premier League. I don't think it's going to be in the Premier League yet, is it? As far as I'm aware,
I don't think so. No.
But if it was going to be, and that was the case, it's an unfair advantage to certain teams that have got some sort of crowd in their stadium. You know, there's no away fans allowed as well. So it's all going to be literally all home support. Yes, like you said, 2,000 to 60,000 stadium is going to be probably worse than having no one in there because of how echoey it's going to be, and you can't really do a lot anyway. But I don't know. I find the whole thing bizarre, and I'm hoping that on Thursday, you know, the people that's going and want to go and be a part of that, fantastic. I hope they enjoy it. But ultimately, I hope it fails as an experiment, and they go back to either having nobody in or having a lot bigger number to make it worthwhile.
Yeah, I know. I completely agree. It seems they're doing it for the sake of doing it, you know. And it's going back to your point about the managers having more time. The other reason they got more time is financially. You know, owners don't want to be having to pay compensation for managers to get rid of them.
Yeah,
why do you want to do that? When, you know, there's no pressure, like you say, there's no pressure from the fans other than on social media. Why make that decision where you've got to pay a huge lump of money in compensation for a manager when you're not making any? You know, so it's but yeah, I completely agree with Ross's point. It just seems ridiculous. Like, it's going to cost you more to, like you say, to employ all of those people, to get all of those staff to manage the stadium and everything. It just seems silly, and I'd rather they just waited for a time where it was a level playing field. The country was in a kind of a level tier, if you like. Everybody was in the same tier in terms of any kind of restrictions or lockdown. And then you say, right, you get X percentage of your stadium capacity, you can allow fans in. That way it's fair. It doesn't matter whether you've got 60,000 or 6,000, you know. At least if it's a percentage, it's fair. That's the only way you can do it, you know. It's in my eyes anyway. But
completely agree. I just can't really see why they're bothering with this. You know, it's almost like it's an experiment to say, well, let's see if we can get some fans in the ground, keep people happy. But actually, it's not the right way to do it at all. They would have been better off waiting until such a time when they can have maybe 10,000 or 15,000 or 20,000, like you said, like a percentage of your capacity, and try and do something like that. I mean, I know non-league grounds they've had fans in pretty much all the way through because of how important the money is to non-league clubs. And you can't tell me that it's safer at a non-league ground when you're a lot closer together than getting 25,000 in the Emirates, that you can space them out a bit more. You can't tell me that. I know you've got to travel to get there, and you've got other issues as well. But you know, I just think it's bizarre that you either all football doesn't have any fans, or all football does have fans. You can't separate. So non-league clubs can have fans in, but Premier League clubs can't, or Championship clubs can't. It doesn't. None of it makes any sense. And I just feel that this is just another example of the craziness that's going on. And you know, as much as I'm sure the 2,000 fans on Thursday they're going to be grateful to be in the ground again. I mean, I know we all want to be back at some point, but I'm hoping that this doesn't catch on. Otherwise, it's just going to drag on longer. They're going to keep having 2,000 now, and it's just going to be ridiculous. You know, you just can't do that, I don't think. But anyway, it is what it is, and they've made the decision now. They're not going to reverse it yet. They're going to at least give it a few games. I mean, see what happens. But be interesting to see what the Premier League do, actually, what they say about the crowds coming back.
Yeah, we'll see. But it just seems silly.
Yeah, it does. There's a couple more games, of course, that we need to look at. This is the first one. I mean, a Friday night sending Newcastle down to Crystal Palace, normally with fans, and that would have been a bit of a nightmare for everyone trying to get back on a Friday night to Newcastle. But luckily, with no fans in, I don't suppose it makes a lot of difference. But Crystal Palace are playing quite good football, but they can't score goals either. They're just really, really struggling for goals, aren't they? And in the end, Newcastle, they've got Callum Wilson was back. He's a goal scorer, isn't he? And he showed what he brings with the late goal that sort of got them the points. I know they got another one sort of after that, but that first goal was massively important. And it just goes to show that if you've got a player who can score goals, no matter how defensively minded your coaches, which, let's face it, Steve Bruce is a very defensively minded coach.
Yeah.
When you've got a goal scorer in your team and you use them right, you can get a goal and get wins.
Yeah,
and it was a good win for Newcastle, that I thought. Actually.
Yeah, really, really good win. And it's, I mean, they're the games that if you're going to be looking to kind of keep yourself safe, really, they're the games that kind of Newcastle are going to be looking at trying to get something from. But it was a well, I didn't see much of it, I must admit, but it was, I did see the goals. But like you say, Callum Wilson's made a difference, and he's scored, and it's good result for Newcastle. It's not a nice place to go, Palace, is it, when it's full of fans? You know, it's a really difficult place to go and get a result. So, a lot of the teams that would be going there would be grateful that there's no fans.
Well, yeah. So, I mean, he's got 7 goals now, Callum Wilson, you know.
Yeah.
And that's a decent total, isn't it? You know, and that's where Newcastle lacked last year. They didn't have a goal scorer. And now they've got one. And, their results are still a bit up and down slightly, but they're capable of getting a result against a lot of teams now. I think Newcastle, they're a team that you could see picking up results like that. And, another good result away from home. Yeah,
definitely. And I think the thing that I like about Callum is it's not flurries of goals, is it, with him? He's always pretty consistent throughout the season. He won't get 8 goals in 10 games and then go 10 games without a goal. He's pretty consistent for a season, which is something you really need, especially if you're a Newcastle. You're going to need a consistent source of goals, which is, he always did that for Bournemouth, didn't he? He was always pretty consistent for a season. His number, he was never going to get 25, 30 goals a season, but he was always consistently getting goals. So, it's a good signing for them. Very good signing.
Yeah, they've made a as well in midfield. A good signing. Actually, their goalkeeper, I think he made the most saves in game over the weekend. Newcastle goalkeeper Darlow, and he's coming from Bravka, who's injured, and he made a few good saves actually, which I was pleased about because he's my fantasy goalkeeper, so I got a few points for him. A clean sheet and load of saves, so he done well. But so that was a decent result for Newcastle actually, and. We'll talk about it in a little while as well, but the FA Cup, obviously, we drew against Newcastle, so that could be that's not going to be an easy game either, is it? Not that there's any easy games for us at the minute. The other game at the weekend, the last game at the weekend, was the game actually, which surprisingly enough has had the most shots in any game in the Premier League this season. What a surprise that is! I mean, who would have thought that West Brom Sheffield United has had the most shots in any game this season in the Premier League?
Crazy,
9 shots, and it finished 1-0 to West Brom. I mean, Sheffield United, I mean, they probably should have won this game, what I saw of it, chances that they had, and they end up losing 1-0 again and in massive, massive trouble, aren't they, after 10 games?
Yeah, I think I said a few weeks back about Fulham being the worst team in the league, but... I think I might have got that slightly wrong. I think Sheffield United are banging trouble, weren't they? What was that? 9 losses, 1 draw. I think they've picked up in their first 10 games. So, going to take something special to get away from that kind of form. But like you say, I mean, the amount of chances, there definitely should have been more goals. But I guess that epitomises what the two teams, what their problem is, is putting the chances away, isn't it? I guess, but it's I didn't see that game, I must admit, but it was, I wasn't surprised by the result, I must admit.
No, I mean, it's funny, isn't it? Because you look at it and say, right, West Brom against Sheffield United, it's finished 1-0. I bet that game wasn't worth watching. And then you realise that had 39 shots in the game between that was a decent game. It kind of was completely not in relation to what you would imagine just by looking at the score and who was playing.
No.
I mean, Sheffield United, to be fair to them, although they're having a terrible start, and it will, like you said, it's going to take some special turnaround to keep them up now. But they're the sort of team that you can see what they did last year. They could probably string together 4 or 5 results at some point in the season. If they can start putting some chances away, you could see them getting a few wins and pulling themselves away. They've certainly got the players to do it, you'd imagine, but at the minute it's not happening for them, is it? So the longer that goes on, the harder it's going to be, because I don't know if anyone survived with just 1 point from 10 games before and gone on to stay out. I'm not sure, but it's going to take a big turnaround. But if anybody out of all them teams at the bottom, they're the one team that I kind of think to myself, they could put a run together at some point in the season. They could start picking up a few results. And they might just have enough to survive, but they're going to have to start doing it soon, because, it's over a quarter of the season gone, and they're stuck rooted with 1 point, and I think they've only scored about 3 goals, one of which was if you remember, which is not nowhere enough, is it? So yeah, but that was actually an entertaining game, considering it was probably the least appealing of all the games at the weekend before the start of it, and it turned out to be one of the better games for excitement levels anyway, even if not for lots of goals. Just finally, there was a game earlier tonight which probably produced the biggest shock result actually in the whole weekend. I mean, if you wouldn't have predicted the most shots in a game this season at West Brom Sheffield United, you certainly wouldn't have predicted Fulham winning away at Leicester, would you? I mean,
no, not at all. I was working till late today, so I didn't see it, but just saw the goals flash up and saw the result, and yeah, you would not have called that, would you, at all? No. But that's going to be a massive result for Fulham. That is, just give them a bit of belief and a bit of confidence that they can maybe pick some points up, and I think they've jumped out the relegation zone with that win. I think, I think they've dropped Burnley back down into it. So it's big result for them. I was quite shocked with that because Leicester are a good side, and I think that's what annoys me about the 3 games that we've lost at home. I know individually they're quite good teams. Wolves are a decent side. Obviously, Leicester are a decent side, but neither of them really have been banging form. I mean, Wolves were down with us, weren't they? They were 13th or so. I think they were a point ahead of us or a place below us or something. So it wasn't as if they've had 5-6 games where they've won. You know, they've all 3 of those teams have lost games either side of beating us. So it's just makes it even more frustrating. But it's a big result for Fulham. That big result.
Yeah, I mean, I said last week, actually, I felt Fulham actually didn't have a bad side, considering, you know, they made some good signings. I mean, I know Lookman scored one of the goals tonight for him as well. He's looked a decent play. I know he had that stupid penalty against West Ham the other week, which might be costly. But I think Fulham are actually, they're another team, actually, out of all those teams at the bottom at the moment, I feel that Fulham have maybe got a decent chance to stay up as well, just because I feel they've got some good players. I mean, that is a cracking result. I'd never have thought they could have won away at Leicester with the form that Leicester were on. I mean, Leicester were top of the league 2 weeks ago. They played Liverpool, and now they've lost at home to Fulham. I mean, it just shows sometimes the way this season's gone so far, it is quite unpredictable still. And I know we're starting to see a little bit more settled results in a way, but we're still getting some strange ones thrown in every week. Really, there's always 1 or 2 unpredictable results every week, and obviously this is probably the biggest one of the weekend, I think. I mean, no one would have predicted that, would they? You know, I actually put Vardy as my captain in my fantasy team this week, thinking, he's bound to score a few against Fulham at home, and he didn't score at all. It was Barnes, wasn't it, who scored a Leicester's goal at the end when they were 2-0 down. So it just goes to show how weird this Premier League has been this season, actually. And just as you think all the strange results are finished, like the 6-1s and the 7-2s and all that, suddenly you're getting still strange results like this happening. And I think we're going to have to accept that this season's just going to be one of them weird seasons, I suppose. And but well played, Fulham. I mean, that's, like you said, a cracking result for them. And you know, it's going to give them belief that they can maybe go on now and get away from the relegation zone, because there's a few teams that are really struggling. You know, that's the sort of result that can give you momentum to push on and really start to, you know, pull away. Because, like you said, Burnley are struggling, Sheffield United are struggling, West Brom, I know they won that game, but they're still struggling. They can't score goals. I don't know what the score is in the game tonight. That might have finished now. West Ham, Aston Villa, wasn't it?
It was 1-1. I was just trying to get the. West Ham are winning 2-1 at the minute.
Are they?
Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah,
they're going quite well, West Ham, aren't they? Actually,
picking up wins, aren't they?
They're looking like a good team this season. I mean, we said it last week, didn't we? How sort of consistent that they generally are, and obviously, if they win that game tonight, that's another decent result for a minute. They're heading in the right direction as well.
Yeah, definitely. It's pretty much done. 92nd minute. Looks like VAR have just ruled out a goal.
For who?
For Villa, Ollie Watkins.
Oh, okay. Wow.
So that's a big call. That could have made it 2-2 right at the end. But that'd be a good win for West Ham as well.
Yeah, no, so we saw West Ham were doing well. Sort of finally, I wanted to move on to the FA Cup third round draw. I mean, I actually didn't realise until a bit later that it was on today, because it used to be one of the big days of the season, didn't it? The FA Cup third round draw. I can remember it being you'd always be crowded around the radio and stuff like that to hear the third round draw, and it almost went under the radar a little bit today. It did for me. I don't know whether that's because I just had other stuff on or whatever, but I didn't even realise it was on. That's how little it seems to have been. How the importance of the FA Cup's maybe gone for everybody. I mean, I love the FA Cup, and we're obviously the holders.
Yeah.
So, but the third round draw, it should have been a bigger deal than what it was. But anyway, there has been one or two interesting ties. I mean, I said a bit earlier, we've got Newcastle at home, which is quite a difficult game for us, really. A Premier League team is not really what you want in the third round. You want to play a smaller team, don't you, really? But unfortunately, that's where it's come out. But Newcastle don't have a good record in the FA Cup, and I suppose we'll be favourites, I guess. Although you don't know the way we've been playing.
No, it's like you say, we could have been dealt a kind of fixture, really. But it's normally in a normal season, you'd be happy just to be at home, wouldn't you? If you were at home, you'd just be happy as long as you're not up against one of the real big boys. Then you're pretty confident that you can get through. But just thinking at a minute, just the home form that we've got. When's that fixture scheduled to be played? Probably not that far away, is it?
Beginning of January.
Is it? Okay, so it's we need to try and turn it around before then. But it's not the easiest fixture we could have had. But I actually didn't see the rest of the draw. I just saw that we got. I saw Tottenham got. Was it Marine or something?
Marine,
the
lowest ranked team in it, and they get played
eighth tier on there or something. 8th tier.
Yeah, it's a good game for them because they're at home as well. So it'd be an interesting. I mean, I don't suppose there'll be any fans in, but I mean, it's a good draw for them. Maybe the money will be on TV and stuff like that, won't it? So it's a good draw for them, I guess. But I suppose it's a good draw for Spurs. A bit like the other year when we had Sutton and stuff like that, isn't it? It's a sort of draw that you probably know you're going to win, and it's an interesting game. And I suppose the TV will be interested because you never know. You get cup shocks, don't you? But that would be the biggest shock ever, wouldn't it?
It would be, it really would be.
As well. It would be funny, but I've got a feeling that Spurs will probably win that quite comfortably. There's a couple of other all sort of Premier League ties. Wolves playing Crystal Palace, quite an interesting game. Yeah, difficult one to call actually. Wolves at home to Palace. Neither team tend to score a lot of goals. I don't think there's any replays now, is there, in the FA Cup? I think it's straight to penalties, isn't it? All the way through. So that's going to be a little bit more interesting as well, isn't it? Aston Villa at home to Liverpool as well, of course, the 7-2 earlier in the season. Liverpool have got a chance to get revenge on that one. That's an interesting tie as well, isn't it? I think because, that'd be an interesting game, that. Yeah. Really interesting game. If Villa turn up like they did before and knock Liverpool out, then, Liverpool haven't done that well in the FA Cup, have they? Really? No. Considering all the other things that they've done well in recent years, winning the league, the Champions League, and they've not really done that well in the FA Cup. So Chelsea are at home to Morecambe, so that's a nice tough one for them. Yeah, which I'm sure they'll struggle. That's quite the kind of fixture you want, isn't it? Yeah, an interesting game that I would have quite liked us to get. Leeds are away at Crawley. That would have been quite good to play Crawley, wouldn't it? Yeah, I would have. It's not too far from me, actually, Crawley. I would have quite liked that one, but Leeds are away at Crawley. You'd expect they'll win, but that's quite an interesting game. And the other one I've got written down was Manchester United against Watford. Ooh, could be a tricky one. Yeah, Man United have been struggling at home, and Watford have been doing okay this season in the Championship. So that could be. Our Man City have got at home to Birmingham. They tend to get generally an easy draw, don't they, Man City? I mean, Birmingham aren't a bad side, in all fairness, but you'd expect Man City will be far too strong for them. I mean, they tend to do well in the Cups, Man City, don't they? They tend to get a final, so I'm sure that they'll get through that one. But there's a couple of interesting games there. But I'm a little bit concerned about our one. It's like you said, a Premier League team is not really what you want in the third round, is it? You want the opportunity to play someone that you don't generally play in the league. I think it's nice. To play someone else. I'd quite like to say Crawley would have been great, actually. I don't think we've ever played there. It would have been nice to have played someone like that. But it'd be a tricky game, Newcastle. I don't think it's certainly not
in previous years, you'd look at that and think we should be all right, but just can't go into any game, certainly at home, with any confidence at the minute. It's a struggle.
I mean, it is a month away, but it is the busiest month of the season, and we've got a lot of games to play between now and then. So we've got plenty of opportunity to get some form and get some confidence and get a bit of a roll going. But equally, I suppose it could go the other way, and we could have a lot of games that we don't do particularly well in leading up to it.
Yeah.
So I suppose it's an opportunity there, because, I say, December's a month where you're literally playing a lot of Premier League games as well. We've got Europa League still to finish off. We've got the Carabao Cup quarter-final against Man City as well. So there's a lot of games to play. We've got a lot of games to play in December. So it's going to be a tough month, actually. And we'll have to see what we do in terms of squad rotation, because Arteta's not really rotating the squad that much, is he? At the moment, he hasn't been.
No.
He's been playing a pretty strong side in every game.
Yeah, I really hope that he kind of properly takes his foot off the Europa League now. That's done. You don't have to worry about that until February or whatever it is. So use that as an opportunity to give some players a bit of a breather, and kind of now really we just got to prioritise and getting some kind of form back in the league, haven't we? And trying to claw our way back up a little bit and get some confidence. So I wouldn't want to see hardly any of that first team squad in those. Is it 2 games we got left? It is 2 games. Yeah. So I wouldn't want to see any of those players in that squad, really. Use that as an opportunity to give some of these youngsters minutes and just let them go out there and enjoy a game of football, So, but we'll see. Like you say, he hasn't rotated too much. Now, I don't know whether that's because he's trying to build some momentum with a team and try and build that rhythm, but it's certainly not working at the moment. So maybe the players just need a bit of a break.
Possibly, yeah. I think the 2 Europa League games now are either side of the Spurs game. So I would be tempted just to throw the under-23s in mainly anyway. Both of those 2 games. I'm sure, the Vienna game might be a little bit more difficult, but certainly the Dundalk game, you'd imagine that we can go to Dundalk with a pretty young side and get a result against them anyway. Not that it's going to matter too much because we've qualified, and as long as we don't lose to Vienna, I think we win the group as well. So we've got that job done, which we should have done. We've got a lot of league games in December as well, and it's an opportunity to claw some points back because, like we said before, if you can win 3 or 4 games, December there's a lot of games coming up. If we can get a bit of a run going, get 2 or 3, 4 wins in December, by the time we go into the new year, by the time we do start the FA Cup, we might have a little bit more momentum built up, hopefully. Yeah. But
it doesn't look like anybody's putting runs together, are they? Really, everybody's dropping points at different times. So that I don't think there's any team in the league that you could probably look at the form guide and say they've won their last 5-6 games. I think everybody's dropped points. So, like I say, if we can just get on, it doesn't even need to be top form. Just some kind of form. If we can go 6 games without losing, get 4 wins and a couple of draws or whatever, it just gives you that momentum back, doesn't it? And that would just throw us up the league if we could do that. So it's just you don't see it at the minute, do you? Unfortunately, it just doesn't.
I think that's just look at this sort of the mathematics of it all. Like you said, 3 or 4 wins could potentially put us back right into the top 4 or on the brink of the top 4. But at the moment in time, the way we're playing, 1, you can't see that happening, and 2, even if it did happen, you wouldn't be confident that it would continue just because of how poorly we've played. And I just want to see some performances, really, and if that brings results as well, then that's even better. But for me, it's more important that we start to play, we're starting to compete in games more and actually look like we can win. And at the moment, I don't feel like we can win just because we're not. Even during the game, even yesterday, we equalised straight after they scored, but you never felt we were going to go on and win that game after that, did you really? And that's been the case in a lot of games. Leeds was the same, even with 11 against 11 at 0-0. You never really felt we were going to go on and win that game. I didn't feel that, not really. Obviously the Aston Villa game before that, we were never in that game from the start, really, were we? And it's just been, I know we got a good result with Man United, but if you dissect that, actually, that wasn't actually necessarily that great, really. It was good in what was around it, but Man United were terrible that day, and we just happened to carried out our plan, if you like, and it worked well that day. But I don't know. At the moment, it's a struggle to see where the next win's going to come from. But maybe we are overreacting slightly to the fact that what the performances have been like, and where we are sitting in the table, as opposed to where realistically 2 or 3 wins would take us. And suddenly it doesn't look that bad. And people said, "Oh, is it time to get rid of Arteta? Should Arteta be sacked?" And this, that, and the other. Clearly not now, because of the way the league table is. And like you said, nobody's really put a decent run of wins together. And if any team's won 3 or 4, they'll then lose one and then draw one. They're dropping points all the time. And if we can somehow manage to pick up some in December with lots of games, pick up a run of results, you never know. And then suddenly things might change. I mean, this time last year when we sacked Emery, who would have thought we would have finished the season the way we did, win the FA Cup and everything else that came along? Never thought it possible. I'd never have. If someone had said to me this time last year, "Oh, you're going to win the FA Cup this year," I'd have laughed at them. Seriously, no chance. So you never know, do you? At the end of the day, you never know what's going to happen the rest of this season. If we was to win the Europa League and win the FA Cup again, I mean, all these problems now we've forgotten about, wouldn't we?
Yeah.
But it's possible. It's possible we could do that because we did it last year. And but at the moment, it's very difficult to see too much light at the end of the tunnel at the moment, isn't it? Just
it's not. It's not an enjoyable watch, is it? At the moment, any of the games, it's it's very frustrating and very flat. But something needs to change, and it needs to change now while we still have the opportunity to kind of get back up there. Because like you say, if we leave this another 6 or 7 league games and we're still loitering around where we are now, then it's going to be a lot more difficult to climb up that league. Like you say, a few results and we'll be all right. But it's thing that we just got to keep our fingers crossed. I just want to get this weekend out of the way, to be honest, and just whatever happens. And I'm just hoping that the players can identify just how important this game is, because it's important not just for the obvious reason. It's important for a lot of other reasons as well. So it's we really need to try and get something. And like you say, if we come away with a 2-1 loss, but like you say, that the performance element of it is there, then at least you've got something positive to talk about, something positive to kind of build on. So can't believe I'm sitting here talking about losing 2-1 to Spurs and that being a good thing. I never thought the day would come where that would be the case, but
like I said, it's kind of gone back in a circle, hasn't it?
It really has, yeah. It is what it is, and it's I mean, if someone offered me a point now, I'd bite your hand off. I really would, and just get that out of the way and move on. But it's
I mean, the thing for me is that we've lost 5 games out of 10, and none of those 5 games that we've lost, I don't feel we deserved any more than that from them games. It's not like we were unlucky to lose them 5 games. I don't think we were. I think we lost the games because the other team were either better than us or we just didn't play particularly well. And we didn't ever look like you didn't come away thinking, "Oh, we're really unlucky there. We had loads of chances. We were unlucky." Maybe in the sense that Sheffield United felt that against West Brom on the weekend. We've not had a game like that. We've lost the game that we've lost because we've not been good enough in those games, every single one of them. And even some of the games that we've won, we've been lucky to win. So, and I want to say, I'd rather come away from Tottenham, even if we've lost. And like you said, I don't want to think about losing to them. But if we've come away and we've lost and we've maybe been unlucky to lose because we've played well and it's just been a little thing here and there that's gone against us and we've lost, at least that way you can take something from that and think, you know what? We were unlucky there. I've not felt we've been unlucky in any game this season. I've not come out of any game this season and thought we were unlucky there to lose. I've not felt that. I don't think we've been unlucky to lose any game that we've lost. I think we've lost because we've not been good enough. And that's what I want to change. I don't want losing games so much. I mean, I don't want to lose games. We've lost enough already. But if we're going to lose games, at least come away from a game thinking we were unlucky there. We deserve something. And then that's something to build on for the next game, and a bit of confidence thinking, well, okay, next week things will go our way if we play like that again. How many times have you heard managers come out after a game and say, if we keep playing like this, we'll win games? But you can't say that about us because we're not playing well enough to win games, have we? We haven't, and that's why we're not winning them. And that's what I want to see. So on Sunday, I just want to see us go there and play. And if we lose, I want us to lose because we've been unlucky, not lose because we haven't deserved anything else. And if we happen to get a result, then even better. I suppose in a way you've got to look at it in that game. You'd rather play badly and win than play well and lose, I suppose, because of how important that game is. But in the overall scheme of things, I want to start seeing us playing better.
Yeah.
Even if we don't always get the right result that we want, at least you can see something to build on and think, you know what, I can see things changing. I can see the improvements. You know, maybe a bit like last year when Arteta first come in, we did lose a few games. We lost to Chelsea at home, and you know, we lost a few games, didn't we? And we drew a few games, but you could see where we were heading, and you could see that results would improve, and they did.
Yeah.
And I want to get that feeling again. At the moment, I say this season I've not had that once yet, and I want to feel that again. You know, maybe not this week, because this week I just want to win, and I just want to knock them off the top of the league, and I want to shut them up for a few weeks.
Yeah, no, definitely. No, it's concerning, isn't it? None of the games you can look at that we've won or lost, and we've not blown anybody away. And like I say, any of the games that we have lost, I actually think out of all the ones we've lost, the ones we were probably more in was the City and Liverpool games at the start of the season. They were probably the ones that we were more in. When you look at the 3 losses that we've had at home, I don't really think that we deserved anything from any of those 3. Even the Liverpool and City games, you didn't come away thinking, "Oh, we were unlucky to lose." No. We deserved to lose the games. They were better than us. Yeah, they were probably they were probably the 2 that we maybe were a little bit more in the game than the others. But I want to feel, if we do lose, I want to feel that we were unlucky to lose rather than just accepting that we lost because we weren't good enough. And that seems to have been what's happened this season. That seems to be where we've gone wrong a little bit, you know. But we'll see. Hopefully on Saturday or Sunday rather, I don't care how we play so much on this particular game. It's almost a free pass in terms of how we play, as long as we get the result. Yeah, absolutely. But if we play badly and lose, then that is going to put even more pressure on everybody, unfortunately. Yeah. But, no, I agree. I'm not looking forward to it, but let's just hope we can do something. Doesn't matter what it is, just do something. Just try and just get something out of it and get it out of the way, move on and try and build on it. Yeah, we wouldn't need to build on. The performance is to build on, or the result is to build on. We want something from that game that we can build on and take into what is a very important December with all the games, as we've said. And I say, if we can get some results in December, then who knows? By Christmas and by the new year, we might be in a lot healthier position, or certainly it might look like we're in a healthier position than what we are at the minute. And that's what we can hope for. I think at the minute it's just taking things a little bit more slowly, and maybe I think we all got a little bit excited because of the way we finished last season, and I don't think that's helped us. Like you said last week about winning the FA Cup, in the worst thing that could have happened, and in a way it probably was, expectation-wise. But I think now we're all starting to realise where we are, and it's just how much longer we want to accept being where we are. I guess rather than trying to, go moving forward, and it is a lot slower than I think we all anticipated, isn't it? And that's the fun. I think so, but I think it's not so much getting used to where we are. For me, it's understanding why we are where we are, and it's not because of what I've done in the last 12 months. This goes back years of I mean, you could argue that it's ever since the Cronkies have come in. That's kind of where it started to maybe unravel a little bit. But it's for me, you just need to understand and just take a step back and just understand why we are where we are. We're there for a reason. It's not because of what Arteta's done in the last 12 months. It's a lot bigger than that. I think he's realised that. I don't think the job. Maybe he's not realised that the job's too big for him. But I think he's certainly realised that the job's a lot bigger than maybe he thought it was, looking from the outside in. So. We'll see. We just got to try and somehow just stay together, keep together, and support the team, and just see if we can get through it together. It's all we can do, really. The whole toxic atmosphere on social media and abusing players, and none of that does any favours for anybody. That's not going to make players want to play for the badge by abusing their families and their kids, and it doesn't bring anything positive to anybody. It makes you feel better for 5 seconds throwing a bit of abuse at a player, and then that's it. It's done, and it's just in the ground. When you're in the ground, if someone misses an easy chance or makes 10 bad passes and you shout at them, you do feel better for a very short time.
I can't see the point of doing other social media because that doesn't make you feel better at all.
No.
Because one, they are not gonna. It's not gonna come across in the same way, and they're not gonna have heard it in the same way. If you shout at a player on a pitch because they've made a mistake, they know they've made a mistake, and they accept that, or they'll probably accept it a little bit more easily. It's not nice, I wouldn't have thought. And afterwards, you probably think, I wish I hadn't said that now. I shouted it out, especially if you were close enough for them to have heard. But I think in the circumstances, it's understandable. But there's no excuse for it when you're at home in the comfort of your home with your computer out. There's no excuse to do that, I don't think, because it's not.
There isn't. It's just. I guess that's the downside of social media, and that's where they need to control it more. It seems very easy for people to be able to throw stuff like that around, and there's more often than not there's no consequences, is there? And it's just that's the downside of social media. I've met loads of good people through social media as well, people like yourself, and I do these channels all purely through people that I've interacted with on social media. So that's the good side of it. But I don't like that, and it makes me not enjoy football because I dread reading and seeing all of that stuff everywhere just because you've lost a match. And the bottom line is we all care and we all love the club, but the bottom line is it's a football match. It's not the end of the world for anybody, is it? But it's just frustrating, very frustrating. But let's hope we can build from somewhere, and let's try and start the weekend.
I just think it's perspective. It's easy to lose perspective sometimes, and I think that's what tends to happen. Social media is that's what it's good at, isn't it? People don't seem to have any perspective on social media sometimes, and it's either really brilliant or it's really terrible, and there's nothing in between. And unfortunately, that's what it is. And real life isn't really like that, is it? There's always more middle ground in real life, and that's probably why. At the moment, with no fans in the grounds and no fans able to go to games, I do think that it's led to that a lot more. I've noticed it a lot more in the last year, but I've probably noticed it more because I've been there more myself, because we can't go to games. You're watching it in a different way. So, but I mean, it has changed. I don't like that either, but unfortunately, social media is what it is, and there's a lot of people that are using it, and they're using it for the wrong reasons, I think, sometimes. And something needs to be changed, but unfortunately, I guess the social media companies have got too much money to lose by changing too much, I guess, as well. That's the other side, isn't it? But anyway, if you are on social media watching this video, then give it a like and subscribe to the channel as well, because it can have its advantages of
absolutely
as well. But so this channel, we do try and be positive if we can. It is difficult, but I'm certainly not going to be criticizing all the players and all the time constantly. Yes, if they make mistakes, they have a bad game, you're entitled to say so, I feel. And if Arteta makes mistakes and isn't getting things right, we're entitled to say that as well. But I don't think there's nothing good can come from abusing people and wanting them out of the club and this, that and the other. It's not our decision to make at the end of the day. That the people in charge will make that decision when they feel it's right. Or they won't make that decision if they don't feel it's right, and hopefully they'll make the right decision when they have to, if they need to. Do you know what I mean? Whether it's keeping Arteta or whether it's getting rid of Arteta, they make the right decision at the right time. That's all I want to happen. At the moment, the right decision is not to do anything, I don't think. And let's see how this plays out over the next few months. But I agree with you. It's gone along on that. It's no coincidence rather that we got Emery in. And we had a fairly decent start, and it went downhill quickly. We've now got Arteta in. We had a fairly decent start, or probably more than fairly decent. We had a good start, and now it's gone downhill quickly. It's very similar, and that's not Arteta's fault. It probably wasn't Emery's fault necessarily. I think Emery took a lot of the criticism for it. Like you said, the problems are deeper than that. And it just proves it, because just the similarities between the last two managers, how it's gone. That can't be a coincidence. That can't be because Arteta's made too many mistakes and Emery's made too many. Yeah, they've made mistakes, of course they have, but just the pattern of it to be repeated like that, it just doesn't make sense. That's not reality. It proves that there is something more. It's deeper than that. It's inside the club, and that maybe that's starting to change behind the scenes a bit more. We'll have to see, but that's where the problems are. And we could go for 10 more managers, in the next 5 years if we wanted to. And would we be in any different position in 10 years' time than we are now? Probably not.
No. And that's the thing, when you look at United, I mean, they've made a few changes since Ferguson left, and they're arguably still in a worse position than they were when Ferguson left. So I just don't ever see that being the right way to go around it. Really, there obviously comes a time where you have to make a decision, and there's a line. You can't. It's not a forever moving target. You have to at some point either meet those targets or you don't, and it's and then you have to make a decision. But it's I just don't ever want to be a club that just is constantly, and maybe that's just the way football's going, and it's just maybe as a club and as a fan base we've been spoiled a little bit with the history that we've had and the longevity that we have with Wenger, albeit a lot of people disagreed with how long that went as well. But it was just I liked the fact that we gave people chance. You know, we gave people time to do the right thing, and yeah, I just want to see us do that again with Arteta. But obviously there comes a time where if it's not working, then something's got to change. So I just don't think we're anywhere near that time just yet. I personally would like to see him at least this season, regardless of well, I mean, if we're below mid-table, then I'll be concerned. But if we're hanging around 6th, 7th, 8th, if that's where we kind of finish, but towards the end of the season, you start seeing some progress. It's I agree with that as well. There's a lot of players there that don't necessarily care too much about whether they play or not. They don't care when they're on the pitch. There's a lot of deadwood in that club that needs to go. And there's a lot of quality that needs to come in as well. I mean, obviously in the summer we wanted that Houssem Aouar and obviously Partey as well. I think Arteta clearly wanted both. In the end, I think we've definitely needed both. So let's just hope that we can solve that in January and maybe go out and get either Aouar again or the guy that I can't pronounce his name. I can't, but I don't know. So maybe if we can get one of them two, or if we can't, you've got to have a look at Ozil again and make another decision there as to whether you register him in January. Because if you can't bring someone in to solve that creativity problem that is obvious to everybody, not even just football experts, you can see it's obvious. You need to have another conversation there about whether you bring him in for the second half of the season. Because if we're in February and we've not brought in anybody creative wise and he's still frozen out, then yeah, I mean that's a different conversation. That is.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I mean, the worst I've seen in 35 years, that's probably not far off. When you think about the last 35 years, what we've seen, you know, George Graham at the beginning, who brought a lot of success, and then straight away, almost Arsene Wenger came in, brought a lot of success. And even in the last years of Arsene Wenger, like you said, as much as people thought that he should have gone sooner and this, that, and the other, but we still had a modicum of sort of success and certainly better football. That was more enjoyable to watch. And I kind of agree, maybe it probably is perhaps the worst I've seen consistently for 35 years. I mean, I saw a thing yesterday, it's the worst start we've made to a season since 1981. At this point in a season. So that maybe proves it. It probably is the worst that we've seen. And luckily, so far, it's only been 10 games. Whereas previously, maybe we had a season or 2 seasons of the similar kind of football like this. But maybe it's not quite going to be like that now. So Jonathan,
I was born in 82, so it's definitely the worst I've seen in my life from 82 when I was born. So yeah,
I mean, my first season was 1981-82, which was actually that season where we had the worst start since now. You know, and the first couple of years that I was going to Arsenal, it wasn't great, but it didn't matter too much because I hadn't seen anything else. It's like anything. When you've seen such great football, such great teams, it's then more difficult to accept when it goes back to as it was. You know, back in 1981, I didn't really know anything else, so it wasn't great. But it's like, well, this is all it's ever going to be.
It's just exactly.
And then you realise actually that you can experience some greatness, which we managed. Luckily, we've experienced, and then it's more difficult. Then when you go back to this again, and it's like, well, you don't want to accept that anymore because you've seen what it can be like, I suppose. I mean, Jonathan's right. I mean, you know, players win matches, they do, and the ones on the pitch are the ones that's to blame. The structure and how the recruitment's carried out is the key. A club that will spend a maximum of around 50 million in summer. Yeah, that's true. We're not going to go out and spend we're not going to go out and buy 6 or 7 decent players in one window, are we? We never have done.
No,
we never will do. And that's the way it is. And unfortunately, we're now in a situation where that's probably what we need, but we're not going to do it. So, and, you know, you're saying it's 3 years away, but during those 3 years, what's going to happen is we're going to be buying players that aren't at the level we need. So we're not going to progress as a club because we're not going to have enough of the players that we need to progress. And then, you know, other players are going to leave, and we're not going to be replacing them with the quality that's necessary because we're not going to have the money to do it. And I think we've been on that kind of roundabout for a while, actually. And unfortunately, that's where we are. And it would take 3 years if it was a 3-year plan that we were going to grow steadily for 3 years. But I can't see us doing that because we're not going to be in a position to do that, because we're going to have to buy players that aren't as good. And like we've almost maybe done to a certain degree, you know, we've got Willian in, who's not maybe as good as what we needed to progress. Even Pepe is probably not good enough for what we needed to progress. And you've got them players now in a team which aren't what we need. And that's going to happen in the next 3 years as well. And if we still get 1 or 2 players that we do need in with all the stuff that we don't need, it isn't going to help us to progress, I don't think. It's almost holding us back.
I agree.
It needs the owners to maybe say, right, we're going to build it in 3 years, and we're just going to maybe do what Liverpool did to a certain degree, you know, and just go for it like that. And if it takes 3 years, but at least you're progressing in the right way. Yeah. And I can't see us doing it like that personally. It'd be nice if we did, and then we could sit and say, yeah, if we had to wait 3 years for that, then fine. But I don't think we're going to do that. So I don't think it will take 3 years. It could take 4, 5, 10 years if we carry on the way that we've been going. If we do things the same as we've been doing for the last 5, 10 years, it's not going to take 3 years.
No.
Which is the worry that we've got. But, you know, we're just going to have to see how it goes. And hopefully Arteta can at least get this team playing better over the next few weeks. That's what we want to see now. And, you know, hopefully that will enable us to, if we can qualify for the Champions League by winning the Europa League, say, at least that will give us a little bit more clout financially, won't it, for next summer? And ultimately, that might ultimately decide whether this 3-year plan can even start. I think another year, I think being out of the Champions League for as long as we have already, I think that's where we're having problems. If we don't get back in it soon, it's going to get harder and harder, and it won't be 3 years. It'll end up being 10 years or whatever it could be. Hopefully it's not. If Fanbase won't have the patience to wait 3 years, he'll be managing 3 years' time. Exactly,
Yeah.
No, exactly. I mean, I think things are changing behind the scenes, actually. They have done, haven't they, quite a lot recently. So let's hope that it's the start.
I think, I mean, based on Russ's point, I think people say that we haven't been backed financially, and a lot of people are right. We have spent money. We've just spent that money very poorly up until the last couple of windows, really. Bringing in Partey, bringing in Gabriel. I mean, Aubameyang was a great signing. Some would argue Lacazette maybe wasn't the best of signings. Pepe wasn't the best of signings. But you look before that, and you look at people like Mustafi that we've brought in. Xhaka, you could probably throw in that group as well. You know, there's a lot of players that we've spent big money on that aren't worth it. I think more was the issue selling players for me. I can't think of a worse club at selling players than us. Bar the odd one where you look at the money we got for Oxlade-Chamberlain, which was 35 million, and in Iwobi as well, we got a good amount of money for. But outside of that, you look at the amount of players that we've got off the books and sold for like 3, 4, 5 million. It's just ridiculous when you see what some of the other clubs are selling average players for. It's ridiculous, but
must be to do with backing people who have no history of doing a job as a fans. We're operating on blind faith. I think as fans we have to have blind faith, don't we? Because we don't understand enough of what goes on behind the scenes, and we have to trust the people ultimately do the right thing. And sometimes they don't always, and we've certainly found that, haven't we, that people behind the scenes haven't done the right thing necessarily for the club, which is why we're in the situation that we're in now. And yes, that's not Arteta's fault. We need to understand that. But having said that, we can't completely exonerate any blame from Arteta from the things that he is responsible for.
Yeah, absolutely.
At this moment in time, and we need to understand that the two things, Arteta's responsible for some things, he's not responsible for other things, and we need to understand which is which. I think as well, and it's not worth getting on Arteta's back for everything, for stuff that he's got no control over. Ultimately, the things that he has got control over, he needs to start doing better as well. And I think we all need to accept that, and that's fine. And hopefully, that's what can happen. But it's a difficult situation at the minute, because I do feel as though we are at a little bit of a crossroads almost now with the club, because of the way the fan base is turning, the way the results are, where we're sitting in the league. The rest of this season now is if this season goes sort of completely pear-shaped, we have early exits in the cup, we get knocked out of the Europa League early, we're just sitting in mid-table, then that's a serious problem, I think, for Arsenal, because of the money situation that we're in and everything else. And I don't think we can afford that to happen. Now, do the owners stick with Arteta if this is where it's heading? When we get to March and April, we're out of all the cups, we're nowhere in the league, and they say, right, let's try and rebuild in the summer, or do they realise that we're going down the wrong path? It's difficult to know, isn't it? Hopefully we won't be in that situation, but at some point this reality is going to have to hit home, isn't it? That is this now where we are, where we're at the moment, or is this just is it like, form is temporary, isn't it?
Yeah.
And is that where we are at the minute? Is it just form that we're struggling with, and things will improve, or is this actually where we are now, and we need to accept that it's going to be a 3-year journey or a 4-year journey or longer? And
I'll tell you something though. The one positive, and obviously I don't want this to happen, but if this is our new norm, if you like, if this is kind of just where we're at, then if this club, which it will at some point, start hemorrhaging money for the Cronkies, maybe when they start losing money, maybe they'll sod off, and then we can start again. Maybe get someone in that actually does want to at least try and take the club forward. Plenty of people have come out and said, I want to buy Arsenal, I want to do this, I want to do that, I want to get them back to where they want to be. Maybe that could be the one positive note that could come out of it. Obviously, I don't want us to be hovering around mid-table for the next 3 years. But if that's the case, then, and that does happen, maybe that's what it takes for them to go elsewhere. Just take the money that they've earned and run. Maybe, I don't know.
Or you can come back again. And I think Arsenal, certainly in my lifetime, we've never really hit rock bottom. We've had some difficult times, but we've never hit what I would consider to be actually rock bottom, and hopefully we never will. But I mean, I don't know. I don't want to get much lower than we are at the minute, really. But maybe sometimes, you need something to happen to reset the whole thing, don't you? Maybe, and maybe that could be what we need, because we've maybe been heading in the wrong direction for quite a long time, and this might be, maybe it takes it to reach the bottom of that before we can then start coming up again. Let's hope if that's going to happen quickly. A bid coming from Nigeria in 2025. Well, let's see. Let's see what happens. Be nice, wouldn't it, if that happened and we got a good takeover and we can start to really rebuild. Although, is that the way we want to go as a club? It's not really the Arsenal way, is it? But I guess you have to go with the times, maybe.
Yeah.
It took us a long time to kind of catch up. When David Dein first came into the club in 1983, we'd been stuck in the 1950s for 30 years. And it took David Dein coming in and restructuring everything to move the club forward. And maybe that's what it needs now. Maybe we need to get with the times, and that's maybe the only way it's going to work. Maybe, I don't know. We'll see. Jonathan's back again. We cover Arteta's mistakes by blaming the owners, where in truth Arteta might be awful. Conversely, Arteta could leave and become the next flop. Yeah, exactly. I think we're in that situation at the moment, aren't we? We are almost at that point where, is Arteta to blame, or is the owners to blame, or is it a bit of both, or what is it? I think it's very difficult to know exactly, isn't it?
I think that goes back to your earlier point about having blind faith. I mean, there's plenty of people that have come out that know what they're doing, that have couldn't speak highly enough of Arteta. People like Guardiola, Klopp, all of these people that know what they're doing. They know what good traits a good manager can have, and they've come out and I just don't think we know enough to. We're all, like you say, we're all speaking on behalf of blind faith without really being in that position. And all the people that are in that position are saying that Arteta's got what it takes. So I'm more inclined to lean on the side of someone that knows what they're talking about than me. Well, hoping maybe that is what my blind faith is, just hoping that they're right and I'm wrong.
And I think that's what we all.
Of course, yeah.
And I think that's what kind of keeps you going every day, isn't it? The hope that things are going to get better.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, I mean, we've been lucky, I suppose, that over the course of history when we've been watching Arsenal, that's generally has been the case. Things have got better.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, we're in a situation now where it's a little bit more uncertain when things might get better. I think in the past, we always knew the good times wasn't going to be that far away. Certainly over the last 30 years or so, once we started having success again under George Graham, you could feel that the good times weren't far away. We might go 3 or 4 years rebuilding a team, but you always knew it was coming. And maybe that was because there wasn't as much competition as there is now. I don't know, but it's got to the point now where you can't see where the good times are going to come from at this moment in time. It needs something to change, whether it's a takeover or whatever it is. I don't know, but that's what I feel now. I can't see where these next good times are going to be coming from or when.
No.
And I think that's always the most disappointing thing. Like I said, it's the hope that keeps you going. Yeah. It's going to get better, And I know we won the FA Cup last year, and we shouldn't forget that too much, because winning trophies is great and it's what it's all about ultimately. And that was a great time that came out of nowhere. So you never know. Maybe the next good time is literally 6 months away in May. Again, you never know, do you?
Fingers crossed.
I can't see it at the moment, to be honest with you. But anyway, I mean, thanks a lot for coming on again, Paul. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Mate.
I like doing these, actually, looking at the week's football and obviously the week in the life of Arsenal as well, which at the moment is interesting, but not very, not great, probably. I mean, thanks for everyone for watching. Thanks for everyone in the comments, Hussein and Andy earlier, Michael, Russ, obviously good to see Russ back, and Jonathan as well. Some great comments and points there, which is good that we've gone over. Where can people find you, Paul, on social media and all that kind of stuff?
Yeah, just head over just on Twitter at the minute. So you can see my at there. So @Dawsey2801. Don't throw any abuse at me or anything. So, but yeah, head over. Yeah, drop me a follow and introduce yourself and have a chat.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it's always good that people can. Oh, hang on, we've had someone else in the chat. Emerson's in. Hello, Emerson. How you doing? If you don't put a comment in, I don't know you're there, do I? Because I can't see who's there unless you put a comment in. So it's nice for you to turn up. Since I'll tell you. Yeah, I mean, but having said that, Man United aren't necessarily any better or worse off than we are at the moment, I suppose. And they've stuck with Solskjaer, haven't they, for nearly 2 years? Or it might be 2 years. Oh, he's only just joined. I suppose probably been working.
2 hours too late.
He's probably been working, actually, to be fair. But he's missed all the fun again, you see. It's no good. Yeah. It's no good at all. But yeah, so thanks everyone for watching. Thanks for all the comments and everything else. And if you haven't done so, please subscribe to the channel. I am getting quite close to 200. I don't know if it's reached 200 yet. Well, this has been going on. I'll check after. Hopefully, I might be a bit closer. Then I've got some good stuff coming up. Obviously, the North London derby this week. So I am trying to get a Tottenham fan on, which I know is asking for trouble. But I'm sure there's a sensible one out there somewhere that can actually hold a decent conversation and a debate about the North London derby and stuff like that and be a part of the show. So I'm hoping I can get that sorted out for the end of maybe Friday. So that could be quite good. And obviously we've got the Europa League game with the fans in, or a very small number of fans in, on Thursday. So I'll probably I want to do a preview of that game and stuff like that. I'm not sure if I can do a watch along of that game because is it a late kickoff, that one, or is it the early kickoff? Do you know?
I imagine it's probably a late one because we had an early one, didn't we, last week?
Oh, because we're at home, it'll be late, won't it? So I might be able to do a watch along of that then. And obviously Sunday as well, I'm going to do a watch along of that. Or I might do a watch along, unless if Tottenham go 3-0 up, I might bin it and and do something else.
Yeah.
But we'll see. Hopefully it won't be like that. So, but yeah, I mean, there'll be loads of stuff coming on anyway. I've also, tomorrow, I'm releasing my latest of my favourite all-time 11 as well. It's my first centre-back one tomorrow is going live. That one is. So that could be quite interesting. Obviously, I'll be picking 2 centre backs, but I'll pick my first one for tomorrow, and the next one will be my second centre. I'm sure you can all imagine who at least one of them is going to be.
I missed the. Who was your left back in the end? I saw the goalkeeper and the right back. I haven't had a chance to watch the left back one yet.
The left back one was Nigel Winterburn. It was a choice. It was a choice between him and Kenny Sanson in the end, really. Ashley Cole's probably the best footballing left back I've seen, but because of the circumstances, I didn't want to pick him in my team really, because it is my favourite 11 as opposed to the best 11. So for that reason, Nigel Winterburn. But that's mainly because I think I went to a lot of home and away games when Winterburn played. Same with Sanson as well. I just think Winterburn had that longevity in his career, didn't he? And he did like a good sort of 30-yard goal as well, didn't he, occasionally?
Yeah. I actually think he was probably a very underrated player actually for Arsenal. He's not one that gets as much of a mention as some of the famous back 4, back 5, if you like. So
8 o'clock it is on Thursday, 8 o'clock, which is good. So I'll be able to watch that. So and I think actually the 2 fullbacks that I've picked, Lee Dixon and Nigel Winterburn, I think neither of them 2 were perhaps the most technically gifted players in their position that I've seen, if I'm honest. But it's not always necessarily about it, is it? It's about what you bring to the team, and I thought those 2 were just, the years that they spent at the club, successful years as well, but they got the maximum out of their ability, didn't they?
Yeah.
And I don't think you can ask for more than that. And other players who have been maybe better than them didn't have the same application maybe, or got their head turned by other clubs in the case of Ashley Cole. So, so that's why. So maybe some of my favourite 11 might not necessarily be the best players or the most technically gifted players that we've had. They're just players that I've enjoyed watching, and players that have maybe given the club something a little bit more than just ability. Because I think there's more to it than that, isn't there?
Yeah, of course there is.
And that's probably what it comes down to. But yeah, I mean, I'll say the one's coming out tomorrow has been my first centre back choice, and then the second centre back choice will be probably later on this week. But I'm sure you can guess who at least one of them will be. I don't think any Arsenal fan can have 11 without at least one of that, without this centre back, one of them centre backs in, really. But
absolutely.
Russ is right what he says there about Dixon and Winterburn should have had more England caps. Of course they should, but unfortunately Stuart Pearce and Gary Neville tended to get picked regularly, so they never got much of a look in, did they? But
no,
that seems to be the case of a lot of Arsenal players. Keown should have got more England caps. Tony Adams should have got more England caps.
Should have had that back 5. That whole back 5 should have all been playing for England.
I don't think Steve Bold got an England cap, did he? Or did he get one? He should have got a load more.
Maybe a couple, but yeah.
It's madness, really.
Criminal.
Newcastle hardly got many. Alan Smith didn't get that many.
Ian Wright.
Golden Boot and didn't even get picked to go to the Euros, did he? Or the World Cup, whatever it was, when he'd won the Golden Boot.
Ian Wright as well didn't get many, did he? Ian Wright.
No. Just I don't know what it is really, because all those players, you'd have thought they'd be first picks almost. And
Paul Merson.
Yeah, Paul, he's another one. Yeah, what a great player he was. Actually, he might end up being my favourite. I don't know yet. There's a lot of Ross has figured it out. Gus Caesar. That's my other series of the worst players I've ever seen. He might get that one. Or certainly the worst individual performance, that League Cup final. You remember that? That was shocking, that, wasn't it? But anyway, I suppose we can forgive him because we did win a lot of trophies where in his sort of time at the club, we were quite successful. I know we didn't play much. But anyway, apparently there's a few good stories in some of the books. Perry Groves' book and a couple of others. Gus Caesar was a bit of a character, apparently, off the pitch. He may not have been a great...
read that.
But, yeah, Gus Caesar and Colin Pates, yeah. They were the days, weren't they? See, we're moaning now. And look at the players we used to have. And yet now we've got all these great international, fantastic footballers that can, model on the catwalks as well. And we're moaning. I don't know what we've got to moan about, really.
No, definitely not.
Things could be a lot worse, couldn't they? But anyway, so thanks a lot to everyone for watching. Thanks for you guys in the chat. Thanks, everybody. And I say thanks to you, Paul, as well, for coming on again. We'll have to do it again next week as well. And in the meantime, of course, as always, we try to be as optimistic as we can. It is difficult sometimes, but we're going to keep going until I lose the faith. Come on.
Cheers, guys.